it's love you give.
I'll be a man of good faith.
And in love you live.
I'll make a stand, I won't look.
I'll be the rock you can build on. Be there when you're old, to have and to hold.
When there's love inside,
I swear I'll always be strong.
then there's a reason why.
I'll prove to you we belong. I'll be the wall that protects you from the wind and the rain, from the hurt and the pain.
Yeah,
Hey, let's make it all for one, all for love.
but the one you won't be the one you want, the one you need.
'Cause when it's all for one, it's one for all.
When there's someone that you know,
Then just let your feelings show and make it all for one, all for love.
The Three Musketeers, written by David Lowry, revisions by Harley Payton. Open on, exterior, Gascony, dawn. Dawn, a verdant field in Gascony. Birds call from treetops, a wind rustles through green leaves. A fox darts into a thick hedge. And last, anti-pastoral, out of place, the sound of clashing steel. Superimpose, France, 1625. Suddenly, two men burst into view, swords pointed, cutting brilliant arc through the morning air. The first is Gerard, bearded, nearly 30, a man in every facet. The second, D'Artagnan, younger in appearance and attitude, exuberant, handsome. And at just this moment, bounding over a low stone wall with a boisterous cry. They battle across an expanse of turf thick with dew. Gerard is the more polished combatant, but D'Artagnan is nearly a force of nature. He whips his sword through the air with wild-hearted abandon. He tumbles and somersaults. This is fun. Gerard and D'Artagnan cross the field, pass over a wooden fence, struggle towards the stable and hayloft. As they fight, both men utilize a variety of props, handfuls of hay, a wood spar, quick kicks from heavy boots. Anything goes as swords cut through the air. D'Artagnan, gaining increasing advantage, forces Gerard up against the peaceful country manor. Gerard, seemingly cornered, executes a gymnastic flip onto the roof and fights from his high angle. D'Artagnan merely smiles and follows. Angle on rooftop. Seen briefly in silhouette against the rising sun, Gerard and D'Artagnan scramble up the V-shaped rooftop, pause to exchange swipes at the peak, then slide down the other side, attacking, defending as they go. Include interior. Inside the manor house, a handsome woman of 40 glances up from the writing table, hears footsteps on the roof. She reacts, curious, not afraid, and steps to an open window, as if to follow the footsteps to the other side. Back to scene, Gerard leaps onto the ground first, landing with an enclosure filled with squawking geese. D'Artagnan flies after. The geese scatter. D'Artagnan, whose wild progress frequently resembles that of a young colt, stumbles briefly. Gerard seeks advantage, thrusts his sword towards the young man's heart, but D'Artagnan parries the blow with a heavy-gloved hand, rolls over the offending goose, glances deadpan apology, and rises to fight again. The epic battle continues. Gerard's modest success devolves into desperate flight. D'Artagnan, seemingly endless reserves, are wearing him down. Then, at the last possible moment, Gerard spies escape. A slow-moving hay cart rumbling up the country road. He runs towards the cart, leaps onto it, turns back to D'Artagnan with a confident smirk, an expression that vanishes when the young Gascon executes a nearly impossible leap to join him. And still they battle, the clash of swords and the kind of music. By now, the men, their exuberance, the bright morning, all combine into a dazzling heroic display. Just then, the hay cart crosses a wooden plank bridge. Gerard backs from D'Artagnan's sword, weak from exhaustion, and he stumbles. D'Artagnan has his man, and he knows it. He prepares for one last blow, and the hay cart shifts, deposits both men over the side and down into a small muddy creek below. A comical antidote to all of this glorious swordplay. Include creek. Gerard lands flat on his back, stunned, his sword out of reach. D'Artagnan lands similarly, but recovers with grace, or rather as much grace as the muddy situation will allow. He rolls towards Gerard, sword in hand, and lightly places the gleaming tip against his Adam's apple. A long beat. Then a surprise. Gerard begins to laugh, long and loud. D'Artagnan responds with a charmed smile.
Had enough?
I believe now would be a good time to end your formal training. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
D'Artagnan leaps into the air, races off without another word. Gerard struggles upwards, peers at the shape of his clothing, cut to ribbons, muddy and soaked.
And may God have mercy on whomever you meet next.
Exterior Gascony, handsome woman's POV, day. D'Artagnan races across the green field, triumphant. Another angle, she stands at the open window, watches his coltish high steps with love. Sadness, too. Cut to interior D'Artagnan's home, day. D'Artagnan steps through the country manor and calls out.
Mother?
But he does not see her. D'Artagnan continues, chattering loudly as he goes.
Did you see us? You heard us, I'll bet. Gerard finally surrendered a compliment, though I almost had to kill him to get it.
D'Artagnan comes upon an open door, a small room beyond. He pauses and then steps inside. Include father's study, a Spartan interior, heraldic emblems upon the wall, souvenirs from battles won and lost. A piece of parchment, on it the words, all for one and one for all. And in a place of honor, a worn blue and gold tunic. Below it, the handsome woman, D'Artagnan's mother, kneels at an open chest. She turns back to him.
Sit down.
Didn't you hear me? Gerard?
Sit.
D'Artagnan sighs, sits in a large wooden chair. A beat. His mother speaks quietly, eyes turned back to the open chest.
Your father was a proud man, and he had a right to be. I never knew one as brave or as kind. He knew that his strength was a gift to be given on the service of honor. That is why he dedicated his life to this country and his king. That is why he gave his life for both.
She reaches into the chest, carefully extracts a beautiful saber.
I watched you this morning and I saw someone I knew. You have your father's heart, his will to fight, his courage. But these gifts have no value unless they are given.
She rises and holds out the sword to him.
This time for you to find your fortune with men as brave and as bold as you are. In Paris, with the king's musketeers. And you'll need this.
Father's sword.
Forged in the Crusades, handed from generation to generation.
And now to me.
D'Artagnan can't help it. His eager reply leavens the nobility of the moment with warm humor, youthful innocence. His mother smiles as she repeats.
Yes, son. And now to you.
With that, she holds out the beautiful saber. D'Artagnan takes it firmly into his hands. Cut to exterior Gascony, day. A huge and beautiful field appropriate to the moment. Mother and son stand in the vast expanse. D'Artagnan holds a restless horse by the reins, traveling satchel attached to the saddle.
I'm not your mother now. I'm speaking for your father. And this is what he would have told you. Never forget the code of the D'Argennes. It is your special heritage. Always seek out adventure.
I will.
Never run from a fight.
I won't.
Never submit to insults, except from the king.
Never.
And be wary of Cardinal Richelieu and for rules France through the king.
Bittersweet moment. D'Artagnan poses for his first great adventure, but not completely certain he wishes to leave home.
Mother, maybe I should wait until after harvest.
D'Artagnan's mother smiles, understands, and speaks gently to urge him forward.
You've heard that every man in the Musketeers is on the run from someone or something.
Yes, but what am I running from?
A shrewd mother and a drafty old house. Now go.
And in this fashion, she releases him. D'Artagnan sweeps his mother into an embrace, now turns heroic and leaps into the saddle. The horse reacts with a start, skitters in a half circle. D'Artagnan struggles to gain control, finally brings the horse to rein. He manages a charmed grin. His mother smiles, scolds.
And for heaven's sake, practice your horsemanship.
Horsemanship. Got it.
D'Artagnan digs his heels into the horse's flanks, shoots off across the bright green fields. His mother shields her eyes from the sun, feels a gathering of tears, and watches him ride into the distance. High angle, D'Artagnan's flight towards a new world. Dissolve 2, emblem of the King's Musketeers. It fills the screen, serves as the background for the main titles. As the final credit appears and the music ends, the blade of a sword enters frame. It slides beneath the emblem and pries it off the wall. The emblem falls to the floor with an undignified thud. A fire blazes into a huge hearth beneath it. Include Musketeers' headquarters. A room at the Musketeer headquarters. The fallen emblem is retrieved by Jussac, an officer who wears a bright red tunic of the Cardinal's Guard.
And what should I do with this?
Jussac offers the emblem to a tall, elegant wraith in black finery. A patch covers one eye. This is Count de Rochefort, Richelieu's right hand, one of the most deadliest swordsmen in all of France.
Throw it in the fire with everything else.
But this is the emblem of the Musketeers.
The Musketeers no longer exist. Haven't you heard? Throw in the fire.
Jussac hastily adds the emblem to the fiery blaze and is instantly consumed. Rochefort watches it burn, then walks to a balcony overlooking a vast courtyard. Include the courtyard. Grim funereal silence as 100 musketeers remove their blue and gold tunics, drop them into a pile that already contains their swords and muskets. The musketeers remain stoic throughout, unwilling to reveal the depth of their despair. The latter is supervised by the Cardinal's guards, who view their hated enemy's plight with satisfaction. This is a sad day for the musketeers, the end of an era. Monsieur de Treville forces a salute towards the captain of the Cardinal's guards, and he hands it over his own musket. Treville is a respected leader of the musketeers. This is the saddest moment of all. Rochefort watches from above. A cruel smile twists his lips. He steps to the railing and addresses the men below.
Musketeers.
100 faces turn upwards to regard him, and on each the same expression, absolute loathing for the man in black. Rochefort is not intimidated by this sea of contempt. He revels in it.
By joint edict of His Majesty King Louis XIII and His Eminence Cardinal Richelieu, the Musketeers are officially disbanded. In preparation for the coming war with England, your ranks and missions are hereby transferred to the infantry. You will be contacted and told where to report. Until that time, you are instructed to return to your homes.
And who will protect the king?
The Cardinal's guards are more than capable of assuming that responsibility.
Muttered curses and dissent throughout. Rochefort raises his voice to be heard.
You are hereby ordered to disperse. Should even one of you resist, the entire corpse will be arrested and imprisoned. All for one and one for all.
As Rochefort intended, the musketeers explode. But before they can attack the guards, de Treville's commanding voice calls out above the clamor.
Musketeers!
And with that, the musketeers freeze. Their eyes go to Treville. There's a moment of silence as de Treville chooses his words carefully. And in defeat, de Treville is stoic.
Go to your homes. Wait. Our day will come again.
De Treville shoots a defiant look at Rochefort, who smiles a patronizing manner. Then, de Treville leads his musketeers out in the courtyard. Rochefort, he turns to an adjoining room where Jussac stands by. Rochefort has enjoyed himself immensely. He goes to a mirror and preens, adjusting his eye patch to a more rakish angle. That's when he catches a glimpse of something behind him. Something red. Rochefort turns. A tall, powerfully built man stands in the shadows of the room, a specter in red.
Your Eminence.
Rochefort and Jussac instantly fall to their knees. Armand Duplessis, the Cardinal Richelieu, steps out of the darkness and into the light, his long crimson robes swirling around him like clouds of blood. His face is long, shrewd, and intelligent. His eyes are penetrating. He smiles his crocodile smile. Richelieu observes a duty roster in one of the walls. It contains the names of all the musketeers, past and present. Have they all been accounted for?
All but 3.
On Richelieu's face, a flicker of irritation. 3?
I sent a patrol to find them, but it hasn't returned yet.
I want those musketeers. Not excuses. Bring them to me. Cut to exterior boulevard of crime, day. Jussac leads a regiment of the Cardinal's Guards down Paris's most colorful and notorious street. They react to shouting and violent noises coming from a tavern ahead, the one called the Dead Rat. The tavern door flies open and 2 of the Cardinal's Guards are flung into the street, bruised and bloody. Just then, a window on the second floor bursts open and a big musketeer dangles a struggled guard by his feet, threatening to drop him to the street. The musketeer, a man of enormous appetites, wine, women, and song, is called Porthos. Jussac shouts,
Release that man!
Happy to comply, Porthos lets go of the guard, who plunges to the street with a dull thud. Then, with a wink and a piratical grin, Porthos ducks inside. Jussac darkens, signals his men, and they rush towards the tavern. Interior tavern. Jussac and his company burst in and discover the room in shambles, the aftermath of a violent fight. But for now, all is calm. A group of the Cardinal's Guards is seated again around a big table littered with flagons and bottles. On the floor around them are their swords and rifles. It appears that the guards are celebrating a victory. But wait, there's something wrong with this picture. On closer inspection, we see that the guards have been stripped to their underclothes and tied to their chairs with ropes. They're all bruised and bloody. Some are unconscious. Presiding over the celebration are 2 musketeers. They sit at the head of the table, relaxing with their boots up. One of them casually cleans his sword with a lace-handed kerchief. This is Aramis, the most handsome and dashing of the musketeers, a poet and an idealist, a gentleman of great personal charm and style. His companion, Athos, the musketeers' deadliest and most charming member, also its most mysterious and tortured. Athos is the unofficial leader of the 3 musketeers, their planner and strategist. At the moment, he's sewing up a nasty gash on his right arm.
What is this?
Athos greets him with a dark smile.
A private party. Go away.
Athos, is that any way to greet our guests?
Aramis leaps to his feet and bows graciously. He is the epitome of politeness.
Don't be shy, gentlemen. Come in. Your friends have been expecting you.
Jussac is not amused.
Your presence is requested at the Musketeer headquarters by Captain Rochefort.
Athos and Aramis exchange looks.
The Cyclops is a captain. He must have made a pact with the devil.
Or the cardinal.
What's the difference?
The devil is more ethical than the cardinal.
Jussac takes a step forward, fingering his saber.
You are instructed to come with me and surrender your tunics.
With a sweeping gesture, Athos indicates the bloody guards around them.
These gentlemen made a similar request.
Are you refusing to come peaceably?
Probably, but I'll leave it up to my companions. Aramis?
We can't refuse Rochefort's invitation. It would be impolite.
Athos tips back in his chair and gazes upwards.
And what do you say, Porthos?
To the guard's surprise, Porthos is balancing on the balcony rail above, just about even with a large wagon wheel chandelier.
I'll be right down.
With the grace of an aerialist, Porthos jumps from the balcony and lands atop the chandelier. His weight causes the chain suspending it to break. With a whoop of pleasure, Porthos rides the chandelier down as it lands squarely atop Jussac's guards, squashing them. When the dust clears, only Jussac has been spared. He looks on in disbelief as Porthos extricates himself from the wreckage and calmly brushes his clothes off.
Ready when you are.
Athos and Aramis sheathe their swords, put on their hats, wrap their capes around them, and cross the room to join Porthos.
Congratulations, Porthos. You brought down the house.
My aim was off. I was trying to hit Jussac.
Athos fixes Jussac with a dark, threatening look.
Now, about those tunics.
Jussac turns to watch Athos, Porthos, and Aramis step into the street. He mutters as if to curse.
Musketeers!
Very French. Cut to exterior high road to Paris day. D'Artagnan, on horseback, pauses on a bluff overlooking the magnificent city on the Seine. What he beholds is Paris as it looked in the early part of the 17th century, its steeples and towers rising to meet the sky. For a country boy like D'Artagnan, Paris is a magical place where the wildest of dreams can come true. If D'Artagnan's reverie is broken, by the sound of thundering hoofbeats coming up from behind. He turns in response, and what he sees is this. Two women on horseback are riding for all their worth, pursued by two men on horseback. D'Artagnan, his heroic blood stirs, women in danger. As the women gallop past, D'Artagnan leaps from his horse. Quickly formulating a plan, he clambers up the trunk of a nearby tree and climbs out onto the branch that overhangs the road. As the two riders pass underneath, D'Artagnan leaps into the space and tackles one of them, knocking him out of the saddle. The rider hits the ground and is knocked senseless. One down. D'Artagnan scrambles to his feet, and the second rider reverses direction and gallops back, charging D'Artagnan. The rider draws his saber. D'Artagnan dodges the horse and the sword. He catches the second rider's arm and yanks him right off of the saddle. The man lands with a painful thud at D'Artagnan's feet. Before he can recover, D'Artagnan is upon him with flying fists. One swift punch, and the second rider is senseless. Two down. D'Artagnan stands over his two victims, out of breath, and greatly pleases with his performance. He looks up as the two women ride back to see what's happened. The first woman is of noble breeding, a beautiful dark-haired woman in her late teens. Her name is Anne. Her companion is roughly the same age, tighten-haired and equally beautiful. Her name is Constance. Anne regards the two men on the ground, then D'Artagnan. She shakes her head and laughs with delight and rides off. Constance remains. She smiles down at D'Artagnan from atop her horse.
Do you have any idea what you've done?
I've saved you and your friend from these bandits.
These bandits are the Queen's own bodyguards.
D'Artagnan is stunned.
The Queen.
Constance points a finger in Anne's direction.
If I were you, I'd make myself scarce. These men are going to be very angry when they wake up.
D'Artagnan looks at the two bodyguards who are beginning to recover. Then he looks up at Constance, feeling like a prize idiot.
I didn't know. I thought...
Constance smiles at him, her eyes twinkling.
Do you have a name?
D'Artagnan.
You're a very foolish boy, D'Artagnan, but a very handsome one. Goodbye.
Constance spurs her horse and rides off to catch up with Anne.
Wait, you didn't tell me your name.
But Constance is gone. D'Artagnan stands in the middle of the road, feeling foolish and oddly thrilled at the same time. The two bodyguards groan and grumble. A bright reflection catches D'Artagnan's eye. He looks down and sees a gleaming bracelet. He picks it up and...
The man who attacked you went that way.
With a guilty smile, D'Artagnan spurs his horse and rides like hell. Cut to exterior country road. D'Artagnan rides to the top of the ridge, stops suddenly, and sees something that takes his breath away. From D'Artagnan's POV, Paris had laid out for him like a jewel, cloaked in mystery, promising adventure and romance. D'Artagnan watches the women as they ride into the fabled city in the distance, and he follows. Cut to interior Musketeer headquarters day. Athos, Aramis, and Porthos sweep into the now deserted courtyard. Silence. The last thing they expected. It stops them in their tracks. The place is a cemetery, haunted by the ghosts of generations of musketeers. Porthos is visibly distraught. Rochefort enters from behind an archway.
I'll take those tunics, Musketeers.
Are you doing a movie?
What did he say?
He said he'll take those tunics.
Tunics? Coming right up.
Porthos reaches inside his cloak and takes out a crumpled red tunic that he took from one of the cardinal's guards. He drops it to the ground, digs into his pocket, and takes out another. He finds another in his boot and another up his sleeve. There's one on his hat. Like a magician, he keeps pulling red tunics out of the most bizarre places. Athos and Aramis have a few guard tunics themselves. They pull them out and drop them into a growing pile.
I was trying to remember the last time I saw you here. I know. It was the day you were kicked out of the Musketeers.
Conduct unbecoming a musketeer. Wasn't that the charge?
You ought to know. 3 witnesses stood against me.
It was the least we could do.
The bitter memory hangs in the air for a moment.
You are hereby ordered to surrender your commissions and make yourselves available for reassignment in the king's army.
And if we refuse,
You will become outlaws, hunted men.
Oh, good lord. It doesn't matter where I go or what I do. Sooner or later, somebody's going to be calling me an outlaw.
Athos cuts him off with a look. He's familiar with Porthos's propensity for tall tales. Not here. Not now. Athos turns back to the balcony. Rochefort lobs a taunt.
Are you refusing to serve your king?
We are refusing to serve the cardinal. France has one too many kings.
I'll tell him you said that.
Athos, who has remained silent, speaks with quiet power.
do that, Rochefort. Tell His Eminence the Cardinal that we will continue to perform our sworn duty to protect the king from enemies across the sea, from traitors who sit at his right hand, and tell him that he can take away our tunics, our muskets, even our swords, but he cannot stop us from being what we are, musketeers.
The gauntlet has been thrown. Rochefort picks it up with glee.
I'll make sure His Eminence the Cardinal gets the message, but I can't promise he'll be pleased.
Rochefort steps back and disappears into the shadows. A beat. The musketeers regard each other.
Well, if we're going to be outlaws, I suppose we should have to get our affairs in order.
Are you going to visit them alphabetically or in order of preference?
Alphabetically seems fair.
When it comes to you and women, fairness rarely applies.
We'll meet at the Columbia Rouge at sundown to celebrate and to plan our new lives.
Outlaws.
Citizens of France.
The Three Musketeers.
That is all that remains. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis step in different directions. Cut to exterior streets of Paris day. D'Artagnan rides through the streets of Paris, a country boy happily stunned by the sights, sounds, and smells of the city. Merchants gossip and call to each other from shop doors. Colorful vendors and pedestrians move along the crowded boulevard. Acrobats, puppeteers, and jugglers perform on street corners. Laughter and music drift from taverns and public houses. D'Artagnan views it all with great enthusiasm. He sees the exterior of the Musketeer headquarters. Wow! The future belongs to him. Athos. He crosses the courtyard to a large wooden door, but as he reaches for the handle, the door flies open and smacks him in his injured arm.
Look out!
Arr!
Where are they? Where are the Musketeers? I'm in the right place, aren't I?
Not as far as I'm concerned.
Athos is wearing his cape in such a way that it hides his musketeer tunic. D'Artagnan has no idea who he's dealing with.
This is Musketeer headquarters.
Whoa. Sorry, my script just jumped. No, this was Musketeer headquarters.
You mean it's been moved?
I mean, the Musketeers have been disbanded. Feel free to poke around for souvenirs.
What do you mean disbanded?
Some nonsense about being needed in the army. Now, if you'll excuse me.
D'Artagnan blocks Athos's path.
But I just got here. How can I become Musketeer if they've been disbanded?
I'd say you've got a problem.
D'Artagnan grabs Athos by his injured arm. Athos, stifling pain, fixes D'Artagnan with a deadly look.
You could use a lesson in manners.
D'Artagnan touches his sword, eyes flashing at the possibility of a duel.
Anytime.
I'm in a hurry now, but I'll meet you at the Carmen de Chaux monastery at noon.
Athos exits.
I'll be there 10 minutes early. Now we're in Paris, and I already have my first duel.
Just then, D'Artagnan spies two familiar figures on horseback, distinctive cloaks hiding their faces. Anne and Constance, though he does not yet know their names. D'Artagnan hurries after. Cut to exterior streets of Paris, day. Start close on Porthos, his rogue's grin, a twinkle in his eye.
Ah, but Catherine, don't you see, as an outlaw, I'll be constantly on the run from the cardinal's guards. A refugee. Think of all the places you can hide me. I'm thinking of them now.
Another angle reveals Porthos leaning against an open window, speaking amiably into a pretty woman on the other side. She dabs a tear from her eye and manages a nod. Angle on D'Artagnan. Meanwhile, D'Artagnan races around another corner down a narrow lane and speeds after the ladies on horseback. He dashes through a muddy puddle, spraying foul water all over Porthos where he stands. D'Artagnan doesn't notice. A huge cart loaded with wine barrels has rolled into view, blocking the lane. Fellow travelers shout complaints. The cart driver shakes his head, does an obscene gesture. It's the 17th century traffic jam. D'Artagnan sees Anne and Constance dismount in the distance, tie their horses, and step into an alley. A man waits in the shadows to escort them. D'Artagnan leaps off of his horse. He means to continue his pursuit on foot, but he takes 2 quick steps and runs directly into Porthos's outstretched hand. D'Artagnan looks up, literally given Porthos's impressive stature, and he sees the Musketeers' muddied tunic, and worse, a unique and expensive sash, now thoroughly soiled.
Do you know where this sash comes from?
No.
It was a gift from the Queen of America.
Porthos's righteous indignation is more impressive than his knowledge of current affairs. D'Artagnan corrects.
There is no Queen of America.
Oh, Madame Augustine, would you excuse me a moment? I'm going to kill him. Now, where were we?
I rode through a puddle, muddied your sash, the Queen of America, except there isn't one. I'm in a hurry, and you were about to challenge me to a duel.
I was.
That seems to be the local custom.
Porthos lets out a weary sigh. He shakes his head.
Everywhere I go, it's always the same. There's always some kid who thinks he's hot with a sword, some itchy punk who wants to go up against the great Porthos.
The great who?
The great Porthos. Me, you idiot!
D'Artagnan gives him a blank look.
Don't you know who I am?
The world's greatest talker?
Porthos couldn't be more insulted. He sputters with rage.
All right, you little puke. You want to die? So be it. 1 o'clock behind the Luxembourg. Bring a coffin.
Bring your own.
Exterior streets of Paris, alley day. D'Artagnan thinks he sees Anne and Constance, races down the alley, turns a corner, down a short street, makes a hasty decision, runs yet down another alley, and tumbles into a shadowy lane. He stops, looks left and right, and does see them. The ladies enter a chapel's back door, close the door behind them. D'Artagnan flies after, skids across cobblestones, rips the door open, and finds himself face to face with the man who has escorted Anne and Constance this far.
Let me pass.
Oh, I'm afraid that is not possible.
I must speak to those young women.
Those young women do not wish to be spoken to.
I have something that belongs to the Queen.
What?
A bracelet.
I'll deliver it for you.
No, you've been enough help already. Would you be so kind as to point out the Carme de Champs monastery?
The guard points to a large building in the distance with a large cross. Cut to interior room. Pan across the Virgin Mary and many lit candles to a beautiful damsel sharing a love seat with the third musketeer, the dashing Aramis. Aramis has a book open and is reading from it. The damsel suddenly grabs Aramis and kisses him on the mouth. Aramis politely extricates himself. He's not the least bit embarrassed, only slightly amused.
Madam, I'm flattered, but I thought you wanted me to tutor you in theology.
Excuse me, Monsieur Aramis, but once you started talking about original sin, I lost control and I became impassioned. It won't happen again.
There's nothing unholy about expressing one's emotions. On the contrary, religion should be experienced in a passionate, all-embracing way. We should feel free to express our spirituality.
Yes, darling.
The damsel attacks him again. Suddenly, on the door.
Open up. Open up. My husband.
Your husband?
Aramis, run.
Aramis's heart is too noble. He gets down on his knees.
First, we must pray to God for forgiveness.
That's when the door bursts open and the lady's husband, an irate marquis, enters with a pistol. His eyes blaze with madness. He aims the pistol at Aramis's head.
On second thought, God's often busy.
Aramis leaps to his feet and sprints for the open window. As the marquis aims and fires, Aramis puts one foot on the ledge and leaps into space. The shot misses him by inches. On the streets below, as D'Artagnan runs past, Aramis lands on top of him and they go crashing to the cobblestones. As they untangle themselves and get up,
Thanks. You broke my fall perfectly, but I do apologize for the inconvenience.
Get off me!
D'Artagnan pushes Aramis aside. Aramis grabs D'Artagnan by the scruff of his neck and pulls him back.
If there's one thing I can't abide, it's rudeness.
You fell on me.
And I apologized for it.
I suppose you'd like to teach me a lesson in manners, too?
I'd be honored.
D'Artagnan brightens. Another duel.
How's 2 o'clock behind the Luxembourg?
Aramis bows politely.
If that's where you wish to die, I won't disappoint you. Until then.
Aramis takes off. D'Artagnan swells with pride.
3 duels in one day. I love this town.
Exterior Louvre day. The royal palace of Louis XIII.
Have you seen the king?
No, Your Majesty.
Interior throne room day. Anne, or rather Queen Anne, steps into the throne room, a massive cathedral-like chamber. Twin thrones occupy a raised dais. The entire wall is covered with a spectacular map of the world. The map contains every known country and continent, including the New World. The seneschal exits, closing the doors with a resounding boom. Anne pauses, all alone in the big drafty chamber. And for the first time, she looks and acts her age. Barely a woman, chilled by the ghosts of all the French kings and queens who came before her. And a long way from home, she steps up to the great map of the world. She reaches out to touch her own country, Austria, and feels a pang of separation. And we hear, "Your Majesty." Anne reacts with a start. A tall, powerfully built man stands at the window, a specter in red.
Cardinal Richelieu, you surprised me.
Cardinal Richelieu steps out of the darkness, and he smiles. How was your ride? Richelieu's question takes her by surprise. He bows before Anne. Considering a reply, she extends her hand, and the cardinal kisses it.
All right. Yes, well, I'm not sure.
Forgive me, but your welfare is more than a matter of personal interest. It's a matter of state. Rest assured, your secret is safe with me. His manner is both charming and paternal. Anne, smart enough to exercise caution in her palace dealings, is nonetheless touched by his concern.
Thank you.
Richelieu turns to the great map and speaks gently. You're homesick.
Lonely. Is that the same thing?
Sometimes. Richelieu brings his eyes back to Anne and continues. Austria's loss is France's gain.
I'm not sure my new husband shares your opinion.
Nonsense. He's young, not blind.
Mostly he's absent. I've barely seen His Majesty since our wedding, and that was 3 months ago. Whenever he's around me, he has nothing to say.
Arranged marriages can be difficult. Your father and I thought yours would bring Austria and France closer together.
Countries align more swiftly than people, I'm afraid. Louis and I remain far apart.
May I advise you? He says it with seeming humility, not condescension. Anne, I was close. Anne nods assent. See, Louis was only 9 years old when his father was assassinated. He lost his childhood forever that day. I have watched him grow towards manhood, seen the toll his life demands. A boy who is not allowed to be a boy sometimes has difficulty becoming a man. He is shy and yet boastful, giving yet stubborn, rude. And most of all, he is not yet sure exactly who he is. Boy who lost his father, or the King of France.
But how can I?
Flatter him. Make the boy feel like a king, so that king may be your husband. Anne considers his eloquent advice, formulates a reply. When the huge doors to the throne room open with a dull boom, the seneschal chants.
His Majesty the King. Do-do-do-do.
The seneschal steps aside as Louis XIII enters. He is surprisingly young, no older than D'Artagnan. His face is handsome and intelligent. Your Majesty.
Cardinal Richelieu, I've been looking for you. Oh my goodness, my cape is dancing.
As Louis strides towards them, Richelieu and Anne bow. When Louis sees this, he reacts with an almost imperceptible start. Her presence catches him off guard.
Oh, Anne. Hello. I didn't know you were here.
Louis hides his nervousness, not to mention his love, behind a formal veneer. Anne, emboldened by Richelieu's confidence, replies.
Would you like me to go?
Louis suddenly remembers the reason he's here. Determination breeds a more capable attitude.
No, please stay. Your Eminence, I demand an answer.
Perhaps if I knew the question.
I've just been told that you went ahead and disbanded my Musketeers.
You approved the decision.
But not the timing of the matter. I intended to address them myself, explain the situation.
Your Majesty, France is on the brink of war. We dare not hesitate.
But these men are my personal guards.
They are the bravest fighters in France. We'll need them on the field if we're to win this war with England. Buckingham plans to invade La Rochelle within the month. I thought it best to act quickly.
I will be the judge of what is best for me and for France.
He says it with newfound resolve. Richelieu receives the rebuke with quiet grace. Anne watches the latter closely and suppresses a smile. The boy is nearer to king than Richelieu imagined. Of course, forgive me. A tense beat. Anne, feeling out of place, steps towards the door.
Anne, are you all right?
You two should continue this discussion in private.
Your thoughts on the matter interest me. They might help.
It seems to me that you're doing very well on your own.
She means it. Anne smiles and exits. A beat, and Louis sighs.
She's beautiful.
Extremely.
Intelligent.
Very.
Sometimes she scares me half to death.
May I advise you? Repetition reveals calculation. Louis nods, and the cardinal surprises with quiet humor. She scares me too, as do all women who join beauty to intelligence. What's a man to do?
I have no idea.
Course of love is full of frightful turns. But no matter how you feel, no matter how hopelessly afraid, never let her know that you are anything other than the bravest and most confident man in France. Make that your starting point, and everything else will fall into place.
You're the bravest man in France.
Good advice for a shopkeeper, let alone a king. The beat. Richelieu acting as the lost father, and Louis appreciating it, speaking as a son.
Your Eminence, I'm sorry that I was sharp with you. It's just that the Musketeers, well, they're not just my guards, they're my friends too.
I know. But don't worry. From now on, I'll take complete responsibility for your welfare. Indeed, he will. Cut to interior, exterior, throne room, hallway, day. Richelieu bursts out of the throne room and is joined by Rochefort, walking quickly down a long hallway.
He's a foolish boy, and barely that.
That foolish boy is about to become a man, which is all the more reason for us to act quickly.
And the queen?
She will receive me in ways she never thought possible. Privately. Hold on the Cardinal and Rochefort, watching the king and queen below. Cut 2.
Exterior streets of Paris day. D'Artagnan walks proudly towards Carmes de Chaux, monastery bold and brave, his future at hand suddenly. I can. A speeding carriage bears down on him. D'Artagnan leaps from its path, stumbles. He looks up in time to see the passenger inside, and for a moment, time seems to stop. She is a noble woman of remarkable beauty, her face framed by the carriage window, long blonde curly hair that cascades in ringlets to her shoulders, languid blue eyes and skin as white as alabaster. She is known as Milady de Winter. She is to sex what Constance is to innocence. D'Artagnan watches as if in a dream. The carriage, the beautiful woman inside. Paris wraps its arms around the young man's heart. Suddenly, a second face enters the carriage window, replacing hers, jarring by contrast. It is the fierce visage of Milady's Indo-Chinese bodyguard, Parker. The bodyguard glares, pulls at the carriage windows, taking Milady, the dream, from view. Hold on. D'Artagnan, bewitched as the carriage rumbles off into the city. Cut to exterior streets of Paris. Scene point of view day, a beautiful house situated near Seine. Milady's carriage stops before it. She steps in the street. Parker follows. After a brief spoken exchange, the bodyguard departs in some errand. Henry, the driver, a brutal-looking fellow, incongruous in his elegant coachman's uniform, snaps the reins and guides the carriage away. Another angle, point of view, reveals that this has been the point of view of two men standing in the shadows across the street. Count de Winter, 45, a kind face etched with sadness, and Armand de Winter, 25, his son. They are well dressed, but their manner and appearance suggest that they have traveled a long distance to find her. Wait here.
But father.
Wait. He will not consider otherwise. Armand sighs, stands in the shadows, and watches as his father crosses towards Milady's house. Interior, Milady stands before a mirror, reaches for one of the many ivory combs that adorn her hair. As she places the comb, we notice the small flower-like tattoo on her arm. She pauses to admire her beauty, then sees the image of Count de Winter, now standing behind her, his eyes dark and cold. Milady does not move from the reflecting glass, and she smiles.
Count de Winter.
We've found you.
Yes, now that you have, what will you do?
Bring you back to pay for what you did to my son.
And if I resist?
I will kill you with my bare hands. The Count steps closer, close enough to touch. Milady's eyes bright with excitement, the smile still playing about her lips, replies,
Well, if that's the case, better stop packing. But first, my hair.
Milady, who has been removing combs throughout, reaches for the next, and cut to exterior Milady's house day. Armand keeps his eyes on Milady's house opposite. No sign of his father. He looks about impatient and steps across the streets to enter. Cut to interior Milady's house day. Armand climbs a flight of stairs. Still no sign of his father or Milady. He calls out,
Father.
Worry makes him hurry. Armand takes hasty steps into Milady's bedroom. The first thing he sees is his own face in the mirror. The second is his father's inert body below. Armand gasps, races to his side. A thin trail of bright blood is seen briefly at the older man's ear. Armand gathers his father up into his arms and begins to weep. Cut to exterior Carmes de Chaux Monastery Day. The monastery is a windowless building bordered by a barren field, a dueling ground for men who have little time to waste. Athos sits on a stone bench waiting for his adversary to arrive. His horse is hobbled nearby. D'Artagnan rides into view, dismounts.
10 minutes early.
I have another appointment at 1.
You'll miss it, I'm afraid.
I'll try my best to be on time.
Athos appreciates the young man's retort, takes a closer look. Then he rises to his feet. The pain in his arm makes him wince.
I asked 2 of my friends to act as seconds, but they're not as punctual.
D'Artagnan notices Athos' pained expression, the blood on his sleeve.
But you're wounded.
Don't worry. I fight just as well with my left hand.
If you'd rather kill me another time.
Thanks, but I see my seconds coming now.
Porthos and Aramis arrive on horseback. They dismount, view D'Artagnan with amazement. D'Artagnan reacts with similar surprise, smiles sheepishly.
What are you doing? You can't fight this man.
Why not?
Because I'm fighting him.
Excuse me, monsieur, but until 1 o'clock. Not until 1 o'clock.
Wait a minute. I've got a duel with him too.
Yes, sir. Such nothing to do.
What time? What time's our duel?
What time is your duel?
D'Artagnan?
Till 2.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ah, how long have you been in Paris?
I can't tell you, D'Artagnan.
Morning.
I can't tell you. You only hear the last word.
How long was
This
that?
morning.
Started losing him.
Yes, sir, but not until 2.
How long have you been in Paris?
I arrived this morning.
Oh, you've been busy.
I've also fallen in love.
Better to die for love than to live for it, gentlemen.
Porthos gestures for Aramis and Porthos to stand aside. He draws his saber ready to fight. A beat. And in that moment, D'Artagnan, I'm gonna get it. Face reveals an emotion that's never felt before in his young life. Fear. Athos sees it, allows him a moment to withdraw his saber. D'Artagnan does so, they square off, touch sabers, and Hussac leads a patrol of Cardinal's guards into view.
Ah, there they are!
Athos and D'Artagnan separate as Hussac and his 4 swordsmen stride towards them.
Jussac, again?
Athos steps forward to meet him.
I told you the next time we meet I'd want an answer. But I
The
didn't expect you so soon.
the 3 of you are under arrest. The boys have no interest to me, and it's free to go. Do you intend to resist? Oh, don't be stupid. Of course we intend to resist. Just give us a second.
Porthos huddles with Athos and Aramis.
Interesting note. 5 of them, 3 of us.
It hardly seems fair. Let's give them the chance to surrender.
Excuse me, there are 4 of us.
They turn and regard D'Artagnan.
This is not your fight. You're not a musketeer.
I may not wear the uniform, but I believe I have the heart of a musketeer.
The 3 musketeers exchange smiles. D'Artagnan's youthful bravado manages a small dent in their cynicism.
Bold and brave.
Poet.
You have a name, boy?
D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan.
The name has meaning for all of them. The musketeers look at each other, deadpan, shake their heads.
Impossible.
It couldn't be.
Athos knows that it is. He steps forward, extends a hand. The others follow, shake as well. Athos introduces each in turn.
Athos, Porthos, Aramis.
Pleased to meet you. How do you do? Good to see you again.
Meanwhile, Huzac and his guards look on with increasing impatience. He clears his throat, draws his saber. The musketeers turn towards the guards. D'Artagnan standing among them.
Well, now that we're all acquainted.
The Cardinal's guards.
D'Artagnan and the musketeers draw their swords and charge. Fight! Suddenly, the 9 men are locked in mortal combat. Athos takes a guard named Casac. Porthos battles Baccarat. And Aramis battles with 2 adversaries at once. D'Artagnan looks for an opponent and finds himself face to face with Huzac. The fighting style of the Musketeers is an exuberant mixture of styles and techniques. Athos is a brutal swordsman, his strokes overpowering and savage. His repertoire includes swift kicks, solid punches, and occasional elbow when necessary. Aramis is seamless and graceful technician. He handles his 2 opponents with a balletic ease and an artist working with steel and flesh rather than paint and canvas. And last, and perhaps the most entertaining of all, Porthos. He is walking arsenal, carrying a variety of bizarre weapons on his body. A crossbow, daggers, bolo, nunchucks, all of which he uses with polished skill of mastery. Add this funhouse of ornaments to his already impressive size and strength, and you have a one-man wrecking crew of epic proportions. D'Artagnan's useful energy is now familiar. He bounds like a newborn tiger, encircles his adversary, changing stance and shifting his ground with alacrity. Huzac is having a hard time defending himself against his opponent, who seems to be attacking from all directions at once.
Stand still! How do you expect me to keep you if you keep jumping around?
Monastery. A monk watches from the bell tower, incensed by the battle raging on the field below. He grabs the bell rope, gives it a mighty pull, and sounds a clamorous alarm. Back to scene. Porthos reacts to the interruption with irritation. He produces a pair of nunchucks. Biscart looks at the odd weapon with professional curiosity, slight confusion, and Porthos whacks him in the side of the head, knocks him to the ground.
Damn monks always spoiling everybody's fun.
Aramis replies while shifting from one foe to the next.
They are near to God.
We're about to get a little nearer to my hilt of my sword.
Pagan.
Papists.
Porthos slides over to handle one of Aramis' opponents. He rather bicker from close range, but Biscarat struggles to his feet, grabs his saber. Porthos sees him and sighs.
Excuse me.
I'm fine, thank you.
And Porthos returns to his original foe. Meanwhile, Athos' heavy strokes take their toll. Casac staggers, wounds an arm, shoulder grazed at the head, and falls to the ground with a thud. Aramis calls out to him, indicates D'Artagnan.
Take a look at our young friend.
You mean he's still alive?
Not only is D'Artagnan alive, but he's making a fool out of Huzac. Frustrated, enraged, Huzac makes a full lunge at him, but D'Artagnan ducks, then slips under Huzac's sword like a snake and runs through him. Huzac falls to the ground, lies still. He is dead. Athos and Aramis react impressed. They turn their full attention on weakening foes. They disarm and disable them with swift strokes. Meanwhile, Porthos chases Biscartet into a grove of trees. The guard has discovered the better part of valor, now runs for his life. Porthos, who is at play as much as he is at war, takes a Spanish bolo from his cloak and whips the ball over his head. Biscart hears the odd whizzing sound and turns to face him. A color drains from his face. Now what? Porthos let the bolo fly and catches Biscarat about the neck. The ball slams into his head. The guard drops to the ground without a sound.
God, I love my work.
Aftermath, a sudden silence save for the occasional dull groan. D'Artagnan scans the battlefield, sees Aramis bending over Huzzac's body, speaking in solemn tones under his breath. Unmute.
I am mute. What's he doing?
Last rites. Aramis takes death very seriously.
Porthos returns in high spirits, stashes the bolo in a pouch under his cloak. D'Artagnan sees the other weapons there, including a boomerang. Maybe next time.
I don't know where this bolo comes from.
Queen of America?
Spain.
Porthos deadpans, then grins acceptance. All for one and one for all. D'Artagnan beams.
Don't encourage him. By killing Jussac, the boy's made himself an outlaw too.
Not if he leaves Paris, which is exactly what he's going to do.
I can't leave. I just got here.
Go home, find a wench, live long and prosper. That's my boob you're kicking.
Why can't I stay with you?
Aramis and Porthos look at Athos. As always, he will decide.
Because I do not want you to.
It's hard to say whether he's acting out of concern for the boy or he simply doesn't give a damn. Whatever the case, D'Artagnan is crestfallen. The Musketeers mount their horses. Porthos and Aramis adopt a friendlier tone.
I know Athos may seem cold and unfriendly, but don't let that fool you.
Ah, he really is cold and unfriendly.
But he's also right. This is our fight, not yours. Go on, get out of here.
Whatever happened to the motto of the Musketeers? All for one and one for all.
Wake up, boy. The Musketeers are just a dream.
Athos spurs his horse, rides away. Aramis and Porthos follow. Hold on, D'Artagnan, as he's watching the Musketeers grow small in the distance. Then, sadly, he steps to his horse, climbs into the saddle. It has been both the best and the worst day of his life. That's when a group of horsemen come riding around the corner of the monastery. 5 cardinals' guards, led by Rochefort himself. They see their wounded comrades, Jussac dead, and the 3 musketeers escaping in the distance. There they go! After them! But before Rochefort and the guards can give chase, D'Artagnan rides in the middle of the field to challenge them, as if to further prove himself worthy of the blue and gold.
Long live the Musketeers.
And D'Artagnan draws his saber. At distance, the 3 musketeers rein their horses, look back to D'Artagnan, bold charge.
Sorry, this is me. Do you believe this kid?
D'Artagnan gallops towards the guards to engage them. He races through pistol shots like a demon possessed. Rochefort rides to the lead, draws his sword. Fall back! I'll take him myself. Like 2 jousting knives, D'Artagnan and Rochefort meet in the middle of the field. Their blades connect with a resounding clash. D'Artagnan is knocked clear from his saddle. He hits the ground with a painful thud. Rochefort's guard leap towards him. Angled to include musketeers, Porthos and Aramis are greatly moved by D'Artagnan's courage.
Rochefort's got the boy.
Too bad.
You can't just leave him.
Athos spurs his horse, rides away. Aramis and Porthos exchange sad looks and hopeful comments.
He has a plan.
Definitely a plan.
And with that, they gallop after. Back to scene. Meanwhile, D'Artagnan is soon outnumbered and quickly subdued.
This boy fights like a wildcat.
Thank you.
The guard clobbers D'Artagnan with the scabbard of his sword. The last thing D'Artagnan sees is the 3 musketeers riding into the distance. Then the world tilts, suddenly goes black. Fade in exterior Bastille night. The walls and towers of France's most infamous prison rise to meet a starless sky. The portcullis is raised by men-at-arms, admitting a spectacular crimson carriage pulled by a team of snow-white stallions. The emblem of the Cardinal of France is emblazoned on the carriage door, and through its window we see the profile of Richelieu. Richelieu, I can't remember how to say that one. Lovingly, he fingers the upholstery of his extravagant carriage. Cut to the interior dungeon night. A chamber in hell, spiders the size of rats, rats the size of small dogs, a foul stench in the air. D'Artagnan is sprawled in the corner unconscious in a filthy matted floor. The sharp tip of a sword pokes him in the chest. D'Artagnan wakes with a start, springs back into action as if he's still battling Hussac at the Carmes de Show. He slaps the sword away, leaps to his feet, and reaches for his own, but it's gone.
My sword.
It's magnificent. Where'd you get it? Rochefort steps into view with a familiar eye patch, admiring D'Artagnan, sword in his hands.
Belonged to my father.
Your father. Rochefort studies D'Artagnan for a long moment, then, well, it belongs to me now. I collect swords. I take them from the men I kill.
I'm not dead yet.
D'Artagnan starts forward, but Rochefort raises the sword, points it at his throat. D'Artagnan freezes, feels the sharp tip of the blade. Soon enough. Rochefort shoves D'Artagnan back to the floor with a heavy beat. D'Artagnan peers at his dismal surroundings.
Where am I?
I'll give you a hint. It's not the Louvre.
The Bastille. I'm in the Bastille.
Well, you're the first person who was ever happy to be here. Unfortunately, your visit will be a short one.
What do you mean?
You killed one of the cardinal guards, an offense punishable by death.
He interrupted a duel I was fighting.
Also punishable by death.
It was a long day.
You know them?
Who?
The Musketeers. D'Artagnan says nothing. He will not betray them. Rochefort leans closer. Tell me where they are, and I will be lenient.
How?
I will give you your father's sword. A long beat. D'Artagnan's eyes, the gleaming saber forged in the Crusades. He nods, gestures for Rochefort to come closer, as if to impart a secret. Rochefort tilts down. D'Artagnan rises up and whispers.
Give me my father's sword, and I'll cut out your heart.
Bold words, bad timing. Rochefort snarls, slams the hilt of the sword into D'Artagnan's head. The youth slumps from the wooden stool to the floor, unconscious. Fool, like your father. Rochefort storms from the cell. He nods at a grizzled jailer on his way out, indicates the chains and manacles on the cell wall. The jailer scurries over to D'Artagnan, inerts in a shallow puddle of foul water. He lifts, drags him towards the chain, but D'Artagnan's eyes pop open. The jailer reacts with surprise and cut to interior Bastille corridor night. The jailer exits from D'Artagnan's cell, closes the heavy door behind him. A closer look reveals D'Artagnan in the jailer's soiled tunic, eyes bright with adventure. He looks left and right, dank corridors, darkness, the occasional groan, and steps lightly into the shadows. On D'Artagnan, he seeks exit, finds only a labyrinth. Two jailers converse, steps towards him. D'Artagnan leaps into the cell doorway, allows them to pass. Suddenly, Scabrous hands reach for him inside the hand, grab D'Artagnan by the throat. He shudders, leaps free, and continues. D'Artagnan steps deeper into the labyrinth, frustrated, no way out. Just then, more footsteps heading towards him. D'Artagnan seeks refuge, watches as a cloaked figure steps into view, accompanied by a retinue of sullen jailers. D'Artagnan thinks fast and joins them. Cut to interior Bastille night. D'Artagnan keeps step into the with the cloaked figures. The retinue, he keeps his head down, glancing at the corridor ahead, looking for a way out. But the cloaked figure is escorted up a long stairway into another hall and towards a pristine wooden door. D'Artagnan Yeah, D'Artagnan watches as the door opens, revealing Cardinal Richelieu, a fearsome apparition in red, the most powerful man in France. Sorry, eye patch. Really hard to read. D'Artagnan's jaw drops. The cloaked figure steps inside. The jailers disperse. D'Artagnan takes step as if to join them, then turns back eyes to the door. The cardinals and the cloaked figure now behind them. Angled to include interior. The cloaked figure bows to the cardinal. Richelieu smiles I don't know. Rochefort stands in the corner, ignored for a moment.
I have an errand that requires your singular talents.
The figure rises, the hood falls back, revealing the unforgettable feature of Milady de Winter. She answers Cardinal's smile with a seductive expression.
I was beginning to think you've forgotten me.
Forget you? Impossible.
Richelieu and Milady share a look of intimacy, two vipers from the same pit. Outside door. D'Artagnan slips closer, reaches for the handle, finds it unlocked. He opens the door a fraction, holds an ear close. Back to scene. Richelieu produces a sealed document from his sleeve and hands it to Milady.
Carry this to the Duke of Buckingham. The king left me no choice. Now that he's come of age, the boy believes he should rule France instead of me.
Rochefort knows that what this portends. He steps from the corner. You're going through with everything.
Yes. Everything. You're to leave for Calais at once. A ship called the Persephone will carry you to England. It sails Tuesday at midnight. I want Buckingham's signature next to mine before the king's birthday. Friday. And doing so shall earn you the gratitude of a king.
Richelieu's not talking about Louis. He's talking about himself. Cut to interior Bastille corridor night. D'Artagnan leaps back from the door as it opens, heads down, shuffles to join the retinue of jailers as they return to view. Milady, unrecognizable behind her cloak, steps into the corridor. The retinue escorts her forward. D'Artagnan falls into place, eyes down, eager for escape. Just then, a hand slams down on his shoulder. D'Artagnan looks up into the face of Captain Rochefort. Exterior Bastille lady coach exiting. Cut to interior Bastille night. D'Artagnan lands with a thud as Richelieu's feet. Rochefort hisses. On your knees. When D'Artagnan fails to respond, Rochefort gives him a mighty kick. D'Artagnan scrambles to the correct posture of supplication. Rochefort continues. This is the boy who killed Cahusac.
I can explain that.
Silence! Rochefort punches D'Artagnan in the head, kicking him to the floor. The cardinal frowns.
Rochefort, violence solves nothing. Leave him to me.
D'Artagnan reacts to the cardinal's reasonable tone. Rochefort makes a sullen exit. The cardinal smiles.
Please, sit down.
D'Artagnan reacts with perceivable awe, as if seeing his first movie star. He sits in a finely brocaded chair, looks at the cardinal, an apparition in red. The cardinal speaks, his manner casual, friendly.
How much did you hear?
Not a word, Your Eminence. I stepped from my cell for a breath of air and became lost in the corridors. It's dark, as you know, but then I saw a light up ahead. The light over your door.
Richelieu smiles, dismissed, as D'Artagnan's tail with a wave of his hand.
You may have many talents, my young friend, but guile is not one of them. Do you have a name?
D'Artagnan.
I've heard that name before. Are you a Gascon?
Yes, Your Eminence.
Tell me, What brought you to Paris? And don't say a horse.
I came to join the King's Musketeers.
Bad timing.
So I've heard.
D'Artagnan, I like you. I could use a capable young man like you in my guards.
I'm honored, Your Eminence. But I don't think I would be very popular with the other men. Not after today.
Suppose not. Your heart is set on being a musketeer. And when I was your age, I too had dreams of joining the Musketeers.
You, Your Eminence?
Why not? Becoming a musketeer is the fantasy of every young Frenchman. Or should I say it was. Like the Knights of the Round Table, the Musketeers have outlived their usefulness. They are a thing of the past. And so have your 3 friends. Tell me where they are, D'Artagnan, and I will spare your life.
Richelieu's seeming kindness conceals a heart of ice. D'Artagnan sees it now. Oh, my internet's unstable. Okay. Richelieu's seeming kindness conceals a heart of ice. D'Artagnan sees it now, replies quietly, no longer in awe, but in opposition.
I'm sorry, but I can't tell you what I do not know.
In that case, give my regards to the headsman.
What about my trial?
You've just had it.
Richelieu turns for the door, means to dismiss him. D'Artagnan calls after.
Wait.
Why, do you object to losing your head?
Yes. I like it where it is.
Then tell me what I want to know, and perhaps you will keep it there a few years longer. Where are the 3 Musketeers?
I don't know.
And if you did?
I wouldn't tell you.
I admire your courage, young man. You might have made a fine musketeer after all.
Richelieu opens the door. Rochefort waits on the other side.
But we'll never know, will we?
Rochefort steps into the room, grabs D'Artagnan roughly by the arm, hurls him from the chair to the floor. This time, Richelieu does not utter protest. Instead, he turns to the captain and commands.
Find the 3 musketeers and kill them.
They'll be dead by dawn.
A comforting thought. Good night, D'Artagnan. Enjoy it. Morning comes quickly.
With that, Cardinal Richelieu sweeps into the dark. Hold on, D'Artagnan. For a beat, history's pawn. Cut to exterior Bastille market day. Bells toll. A motley crew gathers around the execution scaffold, held back by men-at-arms. A hooded executioner mounts the steps of the scaffold on the company of a priest. The priest wears a black cassock and broad black sombrero. The executioner, a large man, raises his axe and touches the end of the blade, cutting his finger. Razor sharp. The executioner holds up his bloody thumb. The crowd roars approval and turns to regard the day's victim as he's rolled into view. D'Artagnan stands half naked, his hands bound behind him in a horse-drawn cart. The driver turns the cart, begins a circuit of the square. The bloodthirsty crowd cheers and jeers at D'Artagnan. The bloodthirsty crowd cheers and jeers at D'Artagnan. But D'Artagnan keeps his head high. If he must die, he will die with dignity. Tower of Bastille. Rochefort watches from a tower overlooking the square. Richelieu appears beside him. Milady left at the midnight by private coach.
A remarkable woman. Most beautiful I've ever known. And the deadliest. Which would explain my attraction. How is our young daredevil holding up?
He's wishing he'd never heard of the Musketeers. Down below, the horse cart reaches the scaffold. A man-at-arms drops the tailgate. D'Artagnan steps down. He is taken into custody of a captain of the guard and several men-at-arms carrying muskets. Another angle, the cardinal's familiar carriage is parked at a safe distance from the square. The guards who attend it have wandered off to watch the festivities. The coachman remains seated on top, braided his whip. braiding his whip. Suddenly, a gloved hand grabs the coachman, yanks him from his seat. Scaffold. D'Artagnan is led by the captain of the guard up the stairs to the executioner platform. The executioner and the priest wait patiently above. D'Artagnan sees the blood-stained block where his neck will soon lie, and pales. The priest mutters comfort.
Fear not, my son.
D'Artagnan regards the priest whose face is hidden beneath the brim of his broad black hat. He holds a large Bible in his hand.
For we are with you, always.
The priest raises his face, reveals it, and winks. It's Aramis, he whispers.
All for one, and one for all.
D'Artagnan's heart soars. He turns to face the executioner. Porthos grins beneath the hood's overhang.
Prepare the prisoner!
Porthos lays his axe aside, approaches D'Artagnan in a threatening manner. He takes him by the scuff of the neck and forces his head upon the chopping block. The crowd goes wild.
Ah, don't worry, boy. You won't feel a thing.
The captain of the guard gives Aramis a suspicious look.
Where's Father Rustin today?
The good father is all tied up.
Very well, proceed.
Don't worry, this axe was given to me. This axe was given to me by the king of Atlantis.
Porthos nods. Another angle. Meanwhile, on the perimeter of the square, two figures ride on horseback. They wear familiar cloaks. A closer look reveals Queen Anne and Constance. They ride through the city towards the countryside beyond, but their progress had led them here. Anne frowns at the spectacle.
Shit. Why? Hold on. What? Okay. Oh. Now I'm Anne.
Got it.
I'm really Anne.
Weren't you always Anne?
Barbarism.
Men call it justice.
Are you surprised?
She replies with contempt, reins her horses away from the square. The crowd, the executioner's axe, but Constance freezes in place, eyes wide, as D'Artagnan upon the cart rolls into view.
It's him.
For just a moment their eyes locked. Insurmountable space between them. Constance's eyes fill with tears. She watches D'Artagnan. Porthos steps back from D'Artagnan, raises his axe. D'Artagnan shuts his eyes, wonders, mutters a silent prayer. That's when the screams of panic erupt from the crowd. D'Artagnan raises his head to see the source of this mayhem. Market Square. The cardinal's crimson carriage races towards the scaffold, scattering the crowd in all directions. Men shout, women scream, all leaping to avoid the stallion's sharp hooves, the coach's thunderous spinning wheels. In the driver's seat, clutching the reins in one hand and cracking a whip with the other, is Athos. Porthos uses the heavy, blunt end of the axe to topple the closest men-at-arms. Aramis opens his Bible, pulls out a pistol, and blasts a saber from the hands of the captain of the guard. A man-at-arms raises his musket to shoot the false priest, but D'Artagnan leaps out of the nowhere, lands on him with both feet, knocking the man-at-arms off the scaffold. Carriage. Athos pulls up alongside the scaffold.
Gentlemen, your carriage. Compliments of the cardinal.
Continued. D'Artagnan reaches to the edge of the scaffold, springs into the air, landing on the seat beside him. Aramis and Porthos shed their disguises, jump after them, light upon the carriage. The roof fabric tears, they drop into the plush interior below. Athos cracks the whip, and the stallions race off through the crowd towards freedom. Square. Constance watches the escape, transfixed, delighted. As the carriage barrels from the scaffold, he thrusts a gloved fist into the air, triumphant.
Yes!
Tower, but the cardinal looks on with horror.
My carriage.
Carriage. Athos produces a dagger, cuts the leather ties that bind D'Artagnan's wrists.
Hold on.
Athos cracks the whips, driving the horses forward. Cut to interior carriage day. Aramis and Porthos have settled in comfortably. Porthos spiles a wicker hamper on the floor.
Oh, what do we have here?
Porthos lifts the lid. Inside, bottles of wine, champagne, and a wide assortment of foods.
Ooh, I'll consider the cardinal to provide us a snack.
Continued, Porthos extracts a bottle of wine, grabs a turkey leg. Aramis looks about the interior, spies a small, ornate box.
Hello.
Aramis opens the box, reacts. It is filled with gold coins and jewelry.
How is it that a man of God becomes a man of gold?
Oh, trinkets for the ladies.
Let's share.
Streets of Paris carriage. Aramis sticks his head through the hole of the fabric roof, hands the ornate box to D'Artagnan.
Would you be so good as to distribute these? Your generosity will be greatly appreciated.
But
Throw the coins, boy. The people are hungry.
D'Artagnan grabs a handful of coins and tosses them into the air. Aramis smiles approval, drops back to the carriage interior. Pedestrians see the gold, shout, and leap after. Their hurried steps impede the guards' progress. Horses rear up, soldiers tumble. But several of the guards manage to avoid the obstacle, pursue the carriage, and with renewed determination. D'Artagnan hears a loud popping sound and ducks.
they're firing at us.
Continued, Porthos sticks his head into view, offering them a bubbling bottle of champagne, the source of the popping sound.
Champagne.
You know I prefer wine.
Don't go away.
Porthos ducks down, returns with a new bottle.
May I recommend this fine Cabernet?
Porthos hands the bottle to Athos. Athos hands the reins to D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan struggles with the reins, tries to control the horses, and beams, taking delight from every instant of the adventure. Athos smashes the top of the bottle, drinks deeply, settles back to enjoy himself.
Turn right at the next street.
The next right.
Turn.
Athos growls. D'Artagnan jerks at the reins. The carriage careens around the corner, tipping on two wheels. Include interior. Porthos looks up from his chest. Champagne spilled all over his tunic. And a brand new sash.
That's it. Next time you drive.
Cut to exterior street day. The carriage charges up a steep hill. At the summit, Athos tosses aside his bottle, takes the rein from D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan sighs with relief. Athos yanks the brake lever, brings the horses to a halt, and leaps down from the driver's seat. D'Artagnan follows. Athos pulls the passenger door open, revealing Porthos and Aramis inside. Gold coins on the carpet at their feet, food and drink between them.
Gentlemen, this is the end of the line. I hope you had a pleasant ride. Unhitch the horses.
But the guards.
D'Artagnan points to the bottom of the hill. The mounted guards chase after, begin their ascent.
Do as I say.
D'Artagnan hurries to the horses. Porthos and Aramis climb from the cab. Porthos emits a contented belch.
Your pistol and powder, please.
Aramis hands Athos a stack of powder and his pistol. Athos tosses the sack into the carriage, takes aim at the pistol, and shoots it, igniting the powder inside.
Stand back.
The interior of the cardinal's carriage bursts into flames. Bottom of the hill, D'Artagnan and the three musketeers mount the cardinal's white stallions, race off into the distance. Porthos shouts, laughing.
I'd give you 5 years of your life just to see the cardinal's face.
10.
Up to Richelieu's face. The cardinal's face is contorted into fury. He steps out of the horse cart, approaches the charred remains of his beloved carriage. He stares at the smoldering ruin for a long beat. Rochefort and the company of guards stand nearby, wait for him to speak. When he does, his tone is measured and calm.
1,000 pistoles on each of their heads, dead or alive. The boy knows our plans.
That's where he went wrong. Rochefort reacts with surprise. Cut to exterior woods day. D'Artagnan and the three musketeers rest against tree trunks in the hidden glade, polish off the last of the cardinal's food and drink, their usual cynicism replaced by something approaching camaraderie. Aramis smiles as D'Artagnan attacks a turkey leg.
I haven't eaten in 3 days. I guess with all the excitement, I forgot.
Your trip from home has been an eventful one.
3 days.
I heard of a D'Artagnan once. He was the captain in the Musketeers when we were just recruits.
He was my father.
A good man, I'm told.
I knew there was something familiar about this boy.
He died when I was 9.
The mention of the elder D'Artagnan's death casts a pallor. D'Artagnan continues tentative. The memory still hurts.
All my mother would tell me is that he died in the service of the king.
An uncomfortable silence. It is Athos who finally speaks.
D'Artagnan, your father, and another musketeer were ambushed and murdered outside the Louvre.
D'Artagnan pales. Stunned and silent, he manages a broken whisper.
This other musketeer, is he still alive? I'd like to talk to him.
Athos shakes his head. Porthos adds,
I already have. His name is the Comte de Rochefort.
D'Artagnan isn't listening. He stands suddenly, turns and walks away. He doesn't want the musketeers to see the tears forming in his eyes. Aramis shouts after.
D'Artagnan!
Cuts to exterior woods day. D'Artagnan stands at a flowing stream, wipes the tears from his eyes. Aramis appears at his side, offers silent comfort, a hand on D'Artagnan's shoulder.
I imagined his death 100 times. On a battlefield defending the king, fighting bravely for France. And now, I will find the man who murdered my father and kill him where he stands.
A man is better measured by his life than by his death. Your father was bold and brave.
But you never knew him.
He lives in you.
That is all the evidence Aramis requires. D'Artagnan pauses to reflect, then wonders.
And your father?
I was orphaned at a young age. The church took me in.
You didn't have one.
But I did. He was a great man, a leader of the church, and his example inspired me to dedicate my life to God's service.
Aramis opens his cloak, reveals a priestly cloth, a secret he carries near to his heart.
You were a priest.
I was a fool. This great man, his father, betrayed the church and turned his back on God to worship power and gold. It broke my heart to see it.
And you became a musketeer.
I joined the Musketeers and got strange things happen. I got my faith back.
But who was that man?
All of France knows him. His Eminence, Cardinal Richelieu.
D'Artagnan nearly jumps from his boots. Cut to exterior roof of Palace Cardinal Day. Richelieu stands on the roof of the palace, lost in thought. He looks down and sees through the smoke and mist the silent rooftops of Paris, pointed innumerable. Richelieu turns and crosses to an elaborate pigeon coop. Servants attach messages to the legs of the carrier pigeons. Richelieu steps into view, anxious but out of breath. Rochefort, sorry. Your Eminence, the Musketeers have been sighted riding north on the road to Calais. Something like that. Richelieu nods. He already knows. He picks up one of the pigeons, strokes it gently.
Don't worry. Thanks to our winged friends, every mercenary and bounty hunter in France will be waiting for them. Isn't modern communication a wonderful thing?
Richelieu releases the bird and watches it streak skyward, flying across the sky. Cut to exterior woods day. The three musketeers gather around D'Artagnan, listening to his story in mid-telling.
I couldn't hear it clearly. I was standing by the door. The voices were low.
Go on.
The Cardinal sent someone to England with a secret treaty.
What?
He's made an alliance with a man named Buckingham.
The musketeers look at each other with alarm.
The Duke of Buckingham.
You know him?
Rules England the way Richelieu rules France.
A ship called the Persephone waits for the Cardinal's agent at Calais to take him to England, Tuesday, midnight.
Calais is over 200 leagues from here.
Messenger in the treaty will prove the Cardinal is a traitor if we can get our hands on them before they reach Calais.
What are we waiting for? Let's go.
Wait.
Athos stops their exuberant plots and plans with a single word. All turn wonder.
Does the Cardinal know you have this information?
Yes.
Then he knows we have it too. And he'll do everything in his power to stop us.
But with 3 men trying, one of us might be able to make it.
4.
Bold words. D'Artagnan matures by leaps and bounds. Athos almost smiles. Exterior road to Calais. Night. Fog drifts across a lonely stretch of road. Suddenly pounding hoofbeats come over the scene. Music swells, and galloping out of the fog come D'Artagnan and the 3 Musketeers riding hell for leather. Hold on this heroic tableau of a long beat. Exterior bridge on road to Calais. Night. 4 rough-looking mercenaries crouch on a low bridge spanning a shallow stream. They are armed with muskets and swords. The mercenaries wait in the darkness, whisper eagerly among themselves. One of them hisses for silence. All conversations end, and the sound of hoofbeats is heard in the distance, faint but growing closer. Shoot low. We'll need their heads for identification. The mercenaries raise their muskets, take aim. Right on cue, 4 horsemen come thundering out of the mist. But just before they reach the bridge, the 4 horsemen break in half. One pair rides to the left, the other to the right. Before the mercenaries realize what's happened, the horsemen ride on either side, splashing through the shallow stream. In a flash, they turn to the road and race away, having avoided the bridge completely. Cursing, the angry mercenaries whirl about, fire at D'Artagnan and the 3 Musketeers as they ride into the night. Porthos' merry laugh drifts back to mock them.
Me. Exterior road to Calais, night. An overturned wagon lies in the ditch. Beer kegs litter on the roadway. The wagon's driver, an old farmer, sits on one of the kegs, holding his head. D'Artagnan and the Musketeers gallop into view, rein their horses to a stop.
Thank God for a friendly face. My horse broke loose. Can you help me move these kegs out of the road?
D'Artagnan starts to dismount.
Stay on your horse.
He needs our help.
Don't worry. We'll help him.
Suddenly, 2 other men step before the wagon, pointing muskets. The ragged farmer reaches inside his coat, pulls out a pistol, makes a smirking request.
Won't you step down, Musketeers?
Gentlemen, I beg you, please put away your weapons and remove these kegs from the road. We'd prefer to ride on without having to kill you.
D'Artagnan and the farmers gape at Aramis in surprise.
You're threatening us?
It's not a threat. It's a fact. If you don't hold these kegs away, you're dead where you stand.
The farmer laughs contemptuously. He raises his pistol and aims it at Porthos' head. But before he can pull the trigger, 3 explosions erupt from under the cloaks of Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. When the smoke clears, D'Artagnan is startled to see the 3 dead farmers sprawled in the road and the 3 pistols emerging from beneath the cloaks of the Musketeers.
Mine hit the ground first.
Mine was taller.
Aramis swings out of the saddle and begins to perform last rites over the bodies. D'Artagnan still can't believe what just happened. He turns to Porthos. Porthos raises the barrel to his lips and blows away the gun smoke.
There's only one rule, D'Artagnan. Stay alive.
Thunder rumbles and rains begin to fall. Cut to interior country in night. A large warm tavern with a rolling fire. Present are the innkeeper, his wife, a few benighted travelers, and 3 barmaids. They turn as the door flies open and the Musketeers and D'Artagnan enter from a raging storm. They keep their cloaks drawn about them and wear the brims of their hats pulled low to cover their faces. The occupants of the inn regard the new arrivals with suspicion. Outside, the storm blows. Okay, sorry, I lost my place. D'Artagnan closes the heavy door. Fearful, the innkeeper comes forward to meet the four ominous travelers. Good evening.
See to our horses and bring us some food.
I'm sorry, but we have little to spare. The Cardinal's guards were here today. They helped themselves to our food and then refused to pay.
In the name of God, I'm sure.
Porthos is on the lookout for danger. He reaches inside his cloak for a weapon and, in doing so, accidentally exposes his musketeer tunic.
Musketeers!
The sound of sliding steel as Athos, Porthos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan draw their swords, ready to fight. They stand back to back in a circle, ready for attack, but there is no attack. Quite the contrary. The people here are thrilled to see them. Musketeers, in my house, gentlemen, put away your swords and come in. Anyone who fights the cardinal is welcome here. The musketeers lower their swords.
I think we found a home.
The musketeers return their swords to their sheaths and take off their dripping hats and capes. The pretty barmaids crowd around them to collect their gear and carry it to the fire. We don't have much, but what we do have is yours. Porthos rubs his hands together, eager to indulge himself. He follows the barmaids, booming in his loud, friendly voice.
Ladies, you're in for a treat tonight. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the musketeer they call Porthos.
Porthos beams, waiting for a big response, but nothing happens. The barmaids look at each other.
Porthos!
Still no response. Aramis and D'Artagnan hide smiles.
It's hard to believe they haven't heard of the great Porthos.
Oh, shut up, Aramis.
The three barmaids perk up.
Aramis? Did you say Aramis?
And with that, the three barmaids desert Porthos and scurry across the room to attach themselves to Aramis. Porthos shakes his head and flops down in a chair.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Interior tavern night. Moments later, Porthos regales the barmaids with a tale.
I said, a queen is no different than a barmaid in the dark, though less practiced in the arts of pleasure.
The barmaids accept his leering compliment with glee, but D'Artagnan isn't so sure. Me too. Porthos, with two barmaids, bellows a reply.
If you're going to be a proper musketeer, you'll have to learn the manly art of wenching. Right, ladies?
The barmaids heartily concur. D'Artagnan looks over Porthos's shoulder to the dark-haired barmaid seen previously. Porthos follows his gaze and grins.
Haha, very good. Your first subject. But you'll need instruction. Watch closely.
Porthos pulls one of the barmaids to his chest, brings her lips towards his.
The secret to wenching is the first kiss. For in that kiss, a lasting impression is made. If it is weak, she'll think you're weak. And if it is comical, then she'll think you're a clown. With me?
Weak. Comical. Clown.
Very good. And as a musketeer, is never weak. And only rarely a clown. Your first kiss must be all like all the things that you are. Like this.
Porthos gives the barmaid a powerful kiss. He breaks it. Turns to D'Artagnan. Oh, Jesus, now I'm doing it. D'Artagnan with a grin.
You may speak first if you like. Your name, her name, and a name or two, but words are usually a waste of time.
Only if you don't know which words to say.
All turn to regard Aramis. He'll play along too. Porthos reacts with delight. D'Artagnan with interest. Aramis continues.
Words may make a more lasting impression than 1,000 Porthos kisses.
Not likely.
I'll demonstrate. Please, sit beside me.
Aramis's courtly behavior is as out of place in these environments as it is persuasive. The barmaid slips from Porthos's lap, sits down on the bench beside him. Aramis does not touch her. He simply looks into her eyes and begins to speak.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leash hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is its gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed, but the eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives thee life to thee.
The barmaid, once skeptical, sits silently, her face covered with tears. That's not the only thing that's wet, I imagine. Anyway, Aramis pauses, almost embarrassed by the outcome. He turns to D'Artagnan and cites
Shakespeare.
Sorry, I scared Porthos away.
That's cheating.
The barmaid on his lap disagrees.
It's beautiful.
D'Artagnan looks at the dark-haired barmaid across the room. Porthos urges him on.
Oh, come on, D'Artagnan, we haven't got all night.
D'Artagnan steps forward. The dark-haired barmaid sees him coming and smiles. D'Artagnan stands before her, hesitates, not sure where to start. Then, remembering as best he can.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art move lovely and more tempered. Ah, to hell with it.
D'Artagnan takes the barmaid into his arms, delivers a powerful kiss, as previously demonstrated. Porthos and Aramis smile proudly. The barmaids cheer.
The boy is a natural.
So little time, so much to learn.
D'Artagnan drains his flagon, indicates Athos sitting at a table by himself, scowling, working on his third bottle of Burgundy.
In all the years I've known him, I have never seen Athos smile.
Why is he sitting by himself?
Athos takes his drinking seriously. Ignore him. He'll be his usual warm, charming self by the morning. Service! My lap is cold. Come here.
The barmaid scurries into view. Yes,
Come here.
get Max. Porthos grabs her by the waist, adds the barmaid to the one already sitting on his lap. The chair breaks beneath them, and all three go sprawling on the floor, laughing heartily. Athos, sorry for saying Athos earlier. He remains lost in his drink. D'Artagnan appears beside him. He hides his concern behind a cheerful attitude.
Come join us.
Athos pulls D'Artagnan down with a dark smile. He fills his flagon for him.
You fight like a musketeer. Let's see if you can drink like one.
I'll drink anything you put in front of me.
Famous last words. What shall we drink to?
Yep. D'Artagnan notices the dark-haired barmaid eyeing him across the room.
Love?
The word nearly makes Athos grimace. He stares at D'Artagnan for a long beat, then beyond, as if to look into another time and place. Finally,
Love. Would you like to hear a story, D'Artagnan? A love story.
Athos's voice reveals unexpected vulnerability. Biddity? Biddity bobbity boo. The pain he keeps inside. D'Artagnan is fascinated, moved. He nearly whispers.
Yes.
Athos takes a long pull from the bottle of Burgundy, wipes the blood-red wine from his lips.
I once knew a man, one of the Counts of Berry, my native province. When the good Count was about your age, he fell in love with a visitor from Paris, a breathtaking girl of 17. She was more beautiful, D'Artagnan. She was intoxicating. And this man, the poor idiot, well, he married her.
Isn't that what people do when they fall in love?
Be quiet and listen. The Count took her to his castle and made her the first lady of the province. They were happy for a time, as happy as a man and a woman can be. Then one day, while riding in the woods, the girl was thrown from her horse and knocked unconscious. The Count hurried to help her. Her dress was torn. On her arm, the woman wore a gold band in the shape of a serpent. It was the only article of clothing she refused to remove. The Count's curiosity got the best of him. When he reached over and slid down the gold band, he saw something on her arm. Something she'd kept hidden till then.
What?
A fleur-de-lis. She'd been branded.
Another angle. D'Artagnan reacts with shock.
The Count's angel turned out to be a murderess who escaped the executioner's blade. She swore that she loved him, swore that she had changed, and if he would just keep her secret, they would live a long life together.
Athos pauses, imagines that life, the Count and his angel.
But the Count was young. He was stupid. He was tormented by the ridicule of his social class, and so he rejected her. For her lies, and for her past. And turned her over to the authorities to be executed for her crimes.
Athos now turns his unflinching gaze on D'Artagnan. Dang it.
But you see, his heart did not agree. The Count soon realized that she had meant what she had meant to him, and what he had done. That his betrayal was far greater than her own. Soon after, he forswore the society that shaped him, gave up his title, and was never seen again.
He loved her.
He killed her. It seemed like the same thing after a while.
Pull on Athos for a long time as he gathers up his pain and puts it back again. Athos smashes open another bottle, but the story has made D'Artagnan quite sober and a little sick to his stomach. He refuses another drink.
Good. More for me.
Aramis, play something with some blood in it. I feel like dancing.
Aramis launches into something appropriate. Porthos and a barmaid get up and begin a festive folk dance. Yes, get it, Porthos. Porthos is damn good. Yes. His joie de vivre is infectious, and soon everyone in the inn is clapping and encouraging him. Every once in a while, another weapon, a dagger or something, drops out of Porthos's clothing and hits the floor with a clatter. That's when Porthos, dancing with abandon, spins out of control, trips and falls on Athos's table, crushing it to the floor. Porthos lies in the wreckage, staring up. Athos, totally unperturbed, looks down and offers him the bottle.
Cut it down, son.
Only if I can lead.
Porthos blinks in amazement at Athos's grim face, then breaks out laughing.
Aramis, Athos made a joke.
Angle on the innkeeper as he comes down the stairs wearing a nightshirt and a sleepy expression. Excuse me, gentlemen.
Were we making too much noise?
You told me to wake you at dawn.
Well?
It's dawn. They turn in disbelief to the shuttered windows. Sure enough, sunlight is peeking in through the cracks. Cut to exterior rural landscape day. The sun rises, casts long shadows across a sparkling dew-wet field. D'Artagnan and the Musketeers ride into frame, continuing their journey to Calais. D'Artagnan squints ahead, wincing with every bump. Porthos grins.
Beautiful morning, eh, D'Artagnan?
D'Artagnan is terribly hungover from the night's carousing. He looks just like he could puke at any moment. So that's exactly why Porthos shouts to him and says,
You know, D'Artagnan, it's not a good idea to travel on an empty stomach. You really should have had a big portion of those sheep's brains.
D'Artagnan covers his mouth. Porthos laughs good-naturedly.
My head feels like it's filled with the King's marching band. Would you please stop whistling?
Whistling? I'm not whistling.
Oh, someone is.
Barmaid's kiss left him dizzy.
Sorry.
Did you say something?
Sorry, I hear it too. It sounds like
Cannonball.
Athos is cut off by an ear-piercing whistle as a cannonball drops out of the sky and strikes the ground nearby, sending up a tremendous explosion.
Eight cannibals.
Another ball explodes into the ground in front of them. Their horses rear up in fear, threatening to dump them out of their saddles as the Musketeers and D'Artagnan struggle to control their horses. They look back and see an old castle atop a distant hill. A group of men operate two rusted cannons left over from some long-forgotten war. The Musketeers barely calm their horses when another ball comes screaming their way, impacting a few feet away, as dirt rains upon them.
How's your head now?
I'm beginning to wish the cardinal had chopped it off.
Stay with us and you just might get your wish.
Athos spurs his horse across the field. D'Artagnan and the Musketeers follow. They discover crude battlements in their path. Athos changes direction, sees 6 horsemen waiting for them in the near distance. He changes direction again as the horsemen charge after. They ride as fast as their mounts will carry them. A crossroads up ahead. Athos sizes up the situation, shouts command.
Split in half. D'Artagnan rides with me.
D'Artagnan nods, thrilled to go with Athos.
We'll see you in Calais.
Calais!
Hey!
Calais.
Olé.
Olé!
Or hell.
Athos and D'Artagnan take off in one direction, Porthos and Aramis in the other. The pursuing horsemen soon race into view, break in half to give chase. Cut to Interior Queen's Bath Day. A room heavy with mist and steam. Behind a maze of gauze screens, we discover Anne reclining in a large tiled bath, Constance attending. Constance replenishes the bath with pitchers of hot water drawn from a boiling cauldron, in mid-conversation as confidants and friends. But how, Your Majesty? How can you tell if you're really in love?
Oh, do you think about him all the time?
Yes.
And when he's around, do your knees feel weak as water?
Yes.
And when he looks at you, do you significantly have to breathe?
Yes.
And you're enough.
I am! Anne turns to Constance. Soap and water swirl around her naked body. She wonders.
Who is he?
You'll never believe it.
Of course I will.
You won't.
Who?
The young man who rescued us from the bandit.
The young man from the scaffold.
Yes.
You're right, I don't believe it.
A warm beat. Anne and Constance are friends as much as they are queen and subject. Are you in love, Your Majesty?
What an impertinent question.
Are you? Anne pauses. If only her life, her emotions were as simple.
My love. It's a matter of state.
A sad beat. Ooh, I'm so sorry. A sad beat. My queen, Constance, teases. Do you think about him all the time?
As a queen, my mind touches many subjects.
Do your knees feel as weak as water?
Never.
When he looks at you, do you forget how to breathe? A beat. And Anne is a girl of 18 again, not queen. Wistful, she replies.
I hope you will someday. I hope I will too.
Hold on, Anne, for a beat. Less sigh. Cut to Interior Queen's Bath Day later. Anne steps to a dressing chamber wearing a long robe, arranging her thick wet hair into braids.
Constance, have you seen my...
Anne stopped short. Cardinal Richelieu waits for her in the dressing chamber, now bows, assumes a supplicant air.
Your Majesty, forgive me.
Cardinal?
I need your help. I could not in good conscience wait another minute.
You want my help?
Yes.
On what matter?
Your husband.
Your king.
Richelieu allows the jest, remains silent, watchful, and resumes, chooses her words with care.
Of course, Your Eminence, as Your Eminence has been kind enough to advise me, it's the least I can do.
Richelieu reacts with quiet pleasure. He steps closer.
I am worried about the king's happiness.
What do you mean?
The Huguenot rebellion, an occupation in the Antilles and Cayenne, coming war with France. These are not the usual hobbies of youth.
No.
And now he wishes to postpone his birthday celebration.
Why?
He feels it is not appropriate.
It sounds as though he's concerned with more important matters.
Which is exactly why we must celebrate. To show the world the King of France is strong enough to face any enemy on any field. To show France that he is king. He will listen to you if you speak.
Richelieu makes his case with forceful eloquence, seeming loyalty, and considers replies non-committal.
I will speak to him.
Anne senses hidden agenda, intrigues below the surface. The conversation's conspiratorial tone begins to disturb her.
Now, if you'll excuse me,
Of course.
Anne nods, turns back toward the chambers. Richelieu calls after.
Your Majesty, please understand that I do not underestimate the value of your assistance, and that I wish for you to consider, in fact, to know all that you and I might accomplish together for France.
Richelieu steps away in his red cape swirling behind him. Anne feels a chill, pulls her robe more tightly about her body. Cut 2, exterior Louvre, Paris, day. Infantry troops drill outside the king's palace. And I'm trying to get my thing. There we go. I found it. Okay, all right. Practicing muskets and sabers. Cut 2, interior throne room, day. Louis watches from a balcony. Richelieu appears fresh from his encounter with the queen. Louis looks up and greets him with displeasure. Interior throne room and great hall. Louis watches from a balcony and says the same thing again, or something. Oh no! Richelieu appears fresh from his encounter with the queen.
I'm sorry to be late, Your Majesty, but I was wrestling with an important matter of state.
It was the same thing. Richelieu never allows the mask to slip, even for an instant. Louis glances at the throne room, the increasing number of Cardinal's guards on duty. They make him feel uncomfortable. Louis speaks with renewed determination. Why is it that I didn't change it to snap camera? Why is it that I don't see any of my musketeers?
I'm afraid that's impossible.
Why?
They have become outlaws. They're terrorizing the countryside, robbing and killing innocent people.
Louis can't believe it. There must be some mistake.
No mistake. I have reports from the local constables involved.
Richelieu, ever prepared, produces a sheaf of papers, no doubt counterfeit. But Louis has no way of knowing. He takes the papers into his hand, reacts with sadness. Musketeers.
They're better off disbanded.
Louis turns back to the balcony, the soldiers marching below, his mood glum and lonely. He sighs, moves on to another matter of business. Your Eminence, I've been hearing some very troubling rumors about you. Richelieu nods, not the least bit concerned.
There are so many to choose from. Is it the one about my alleged allegiance with Buckingham? Let's see if I remember it correctly. While the English attack from without, I'll undermine the throne from within, depose you, and become sovereign of France myself. That rumor, Your Majesty?
Richelieu smiles, his face a mask of innocence. It does seem rather far-fetched.
If there are any doubts of my loyalty, they'll be put to rest when we appear together at your birthday celebration.
I've been thinking about that. A birthday celebration when we're on the brink of war.
Your subjects are eager to celebrate the birth of their king at a time like this.
I'm not so eager.
I have an idea. Why don't you discuss the matter with your queen?
Louis looks up, wonders, as Richelieu draws him deeper into his spider's stratagems. Cut 2, exterior French countryside, day. Porthos and Aramis ride hard. Look back over their shoulders. They crest the top of a bluff, rein their horses to a stop. They can afford to rest for a moment. Their pursuit is at least a mile behind them.
What's that, Aramis?
My horse will not survive another league.
And you?
10, 20 at most.
Porthos looks into the near distance, manages a weary smile.
Here's just the thing. Nice, relaxing boat ride.
At the bottom of the hill, a crude ferry lands at the bank of a swift, choppy river. Cut to exterior river and ferry landing day. The ferry is an open flatboat, a wooden platform about 15 by 20 feet. Oh my god, it's like the Oregon Trail. It travels from one shore to the other by means of a ferry rope. Transport is slow. The trip to the other shore takes nearly 5 minutes. As Porthos and Aramis arrive, the flatboat is just returning, piloted by its ferryman, a hunched and weather-beaten gnome. 4 passengers wait to be carried across, 2 gentlemen cavaliers on horseback, and a countrywoman and her child. As the flatboat enters its slip, the 2 cavaliers urge their horses on board, rudely jostling the woman and her child to the rear. The ferryman, an experienced bootlicker, bows and scrapes to the cavaliers, collects the coins they toss to his way.
A privilege to carry you on my humble boat.
Jen, that's you.
Oh, it's not highlighted. I'm sorry, but I only have one. I'm so sorry. I only have one. I'm still a kid.
Turns a greedy eye.
Oh no! Whoever's doing scene description, the ferryman turns a greedy eye.
Jesus. I Travised.
Yeah.
I Travis.
The spirit of Travis.
The ferryman turns a greedy eye on a woman and child.
2 pestos.
But I only have one. Cut my child right free. She's so small.
2 pistoles.
A courtly voice intervenes.
Put away your money, madam. You and your child will cross the river under our protection. For free.
All turn to regard Aramis on horseback, Porthos at his side. The woman reacts with grateful surprise. The ferryman is outraged. Spittle flies as he curses and protests.
Nobody rides for free. Under your protection, bloody well indeed. I'll teach you a thing or two about protection. Apple-cheeked young fools. Just who do you think you are?
Musketeers.
The 2 cavaliers react to the word. The ferryman does too, into cringing, obedient servant.
Musketeers? Well, why didn't you say so? Of course, you will ride for free. I insist on it. This way, pretty madam. What a lovely little girl.
Porthos.
What?
Aramis takes Porthos by the shoulder and turns him so he can see their pursuers pouring over the top of the hill on their horses.
We sail!
And with that, Porthos takes the sharp edge of his boomerang and brings it down on the dock rope. The rope splits and the ferryboat lurches away from the dock. Hill and shore, the pursuers charge down the hill and ride to the end of the dock, but they're too late. Porthos and Aramis have gotten away. Flatboat. Porthos laughs and taunts the angry pursuers. Aramis ties scarves around the horses' eyes to blindfold them for the crossing. Then he turns around and sees what Aramis is already seeing. The 2 cavaliers watch them with keen interest. You're those musketeers everyone's been looking for.
Popularity has its price.
The first cavalier smiles, produces a flask. I have some excellent brandy here. Would you gentlemen care to drink a toast with us to the cardinal?
Oh, we'd be happy to.
Porthos produces a bottle from under his cloak.
If you'll drink to one with us with the king.
But the only king we recognize is the cardinal.
There are those who would call that treason.
I did not choose this drink. Happily, no such objections have been raised here.
All right. I'll object.
I'm listening.
Let's see. You are, by your dress and by your manner, members of a lazy-born class of servile kneehammers whose snobbish allegiance to his eminence, the cardinal, is that of a dog who likes nothing better than to sniff today where he has peed the day before. Is that right? Yep, Max Tree. Piss is piss, no matter what robes surround it.
Well said.
The dogs.
I'm impressed. Ninny hammers.
I was momentarily inspired.
The Cavaliers are not amused. The first replies in measured tones, his lips white with fury. May I reply?
By all means.
Better to be a dog in the service of a great master than a beef-witted moron so dazzled by the throne that he does not see the true nature of the foolish boy who wobbles atop it. Which is to say, that most muddy-brained of all men, a musketeer. Pause for very, very pointed sip. The Cavaliers have already pulled out their swords. Porthos and Aramis now reach for their own. Porthos deadpans.
Maybe there's just something about us that just pisses people off. At least I like to think so. It's too bad we can only kill them once.
Fight! The middle of a river on a rocking flatboat is not the best place for a duel, but the combatants make the most of it, slipping, sliding, and falling. They attack with everything they've got. The Cavaliers are excellent swordsmen. Why, thank you. And as if that were not enough, the Musketeers have additional disadvantage. They must keep the woman and child clear of the flashing blades. Excuse me. Porthos drives his opponent about the flatboat with a devilish grin, chases him between and at one point over blindfolded horses. Aramis duels with the expected artistry, gradually reducing his opponent to tatters. At one juncture, the child loses her footing, slides towards the low end of the flatboat, the deep river beyond. Aramis executes a neat sidestep, stops the child's desperate progress with one arm while continuing to do battle with the other. He returns child to mother with a grin, continues. The two Cavaliers are soon vanquished, groaning on the flatboat deck. Porthos and Aramis meet at the middle, breathless. Porthos complains.
Ugh. I've been called a lot of things in my time.
Porthos.
But Robin, beef-witted is a little more than I can stand. Not to mention unfair.
Porthos.
What?
Aramis indicates the opposite shore as the flatboat approaches it. There, waiting patiently, swords and muskets already drawn, is a patrol of Cardinal's guards.
Can you swim?
No. What? No, my horse can.
That'll do.
Aramis hurries to his horse, takes off the blindfold. Porthos grumbles after, follows suit. They leap atop their mounts. The horses slip upon the wet deck as they guide them to the edge.
You go first, and I'll watch your progress.
No, please. After you.
Stalemate. Then, they can't help it. Aramis and Porthos grin. Life is an adventure. Live to the fullest. They count.
1,
2,
3.
And with that, as the woman and child, the ferrymen look on, Aramis and Porthos guide their horses into the raging river. The woman whispers after.
Thank you. Godspeed.
Wow, that was a great whisper. Porthos manages a wink as he floats into the distance. I love you so much, unnamed woman. On shore, the Cardinal's guards react with anger and disbelief. River. A wild ride down the roaring river. Porthos clinging to his horse for dear life, Aramis keeping an eye on his fellow musketeer, and the deep rapids up ahead. Through twists and turns, walls of white water, huge boulders, and gyrating whirlpools, Aramis and Porthos finally reach a quiet pool, a leafy shore beyond. They lead their horses from the water, step toward dry land, and see yet another, or perhaps the same, patrol of Cardinal's guards, waiting, swords drawn, for their arrival. Porthos looks down at his latest sash. Destroyed like the others. Aramis draws a saber and mutters.
A nice relaxing boat ride.
And with that, Aramis and Porthos charge towards the guards. Cut 2, exterior dense forest day. Cool, clear water widened to reveal D'Artagnan and Athos at a shallow pond watering their horses. The forest around them is dark and primeval.
Do you think we've lost them?
They'll catch up eventually.
To the point, as always, D'Artagnan pauses to look at their beautiful surroundings, remembers.
My father used to hunt in a forest a lot like this. He promised to take me on my 10th birthday. I don't know why he picked that year. Something about a boy becoming a man. I'd lay in bed at night and imagine it, just the two of us. But he died before I could go with him.
Athos is unmoved, or so it would seem. He replies with quiet cynicism.
Well, you have your boyhood wish at last. The dark forest. The thrill of the hunt. The nearness of death.
Only D'Artagnan is the hunted, not the hunter.
I'd be proud to die for my king.
I just wanted to save you from the life of a musketeer. You don't have to go looking for experience, D'Artagnan. It'll find you soon enough. And when it does, it'll mark you forever.
Athos rides into the forest. D'Artagnan hurries to follow. Cut to exterior forest, day. Athos leads D'Artagnan through the forest. Sunbeams shoot down through the thick branches like golden bars. A pastoral setting, almost peaceful. And then, thundering hoofbeats. Athos and D'Artagnan turn in surprise, see 6 horsemen crashing through the glade. Another angle. Athos and D'Artagnan gallop through the dense forest. The horsemen fire pistols as they ride. A shot grazes D'Artagnan's shoulder. He staggers, retains his mount. Athos leads them up a hillside, a series of boulders at the top. The climb is fast and treacherous, gunfire all around them. Athos's horse is struck by a bullet, staggers forward, and collapses just as they reach the crest. D'Artagnan leaps off his horse, takes cover with Athos behind the boulders. Athos takes aim, fires a shot, and kills one of the horsemen below. The others curse, leap from their mounts, seek cover. Shots whiz back and forth like angry hornets. Stalemate, but not for long. They are badly outnumbered. The horsemen creep slowly up the hillside, from tree to tree. Athos turns to D'Artagnan as he reloads.
I'll hold them off as long as I can. Go on without me.
I can't leave you here, not like this.
Ride to Calais and stop the Cardinal's agent.
Athos, I can't.
Athos points his pistol at D'Artagnan.
Go, or I'll kill you myself.
A few days ago, D'Artagnan would have obeyed without question, fearful, if nothing else. But not here, not now.
A duel, then.
You're insane.
We never finished the first.
All right, I'll toss a coin. Tails I stay, heads you remain. Agreed?
D'Artagnan nods. Athos fires off another shot. He produces a gold coin, flips, slams it between palm and hand, and looks between. Athos and his POV. Heads. D'Artagnan is to remain. Athos looks up without missing a beat.
Tails, I stay.
Athos returns the coin to his doublet without giving D'Artagnan a chance to see.
But...
Athos reloads, fires below. D'Artagnan recognizes the kindness he has received, that Athos cannot fully express it, and that there is no use arguing with him.
At least take my pistol.
He gives it to Athos. They clasp hands.
Don't let us down, Musketeer.
There are tears in D'Artagnan's eyes. He knows Athos hasn't gotten a chance.
I'll never forget you.
Go.
Athos turns away, shoots at another horseman. D'Artagnan runs to his mount, gallops away. D'Artagnan, he rides, straining to hear the sounds of gunfire. As long as the shots continue, he knows Athos is alive. Abruptly, the shots cease. D'Artagnan swallows his heart and rides. Cut to exterior road to Calais, night. A lonely stretch of road illuminated by moonlight. A signpost announces Calais, 15 leagues. An exhausted horse clops into view, its rider half conscious in the saddle. It is D'Artagnan. He can barely keep his eyes open. Suddenly, D'Artagnan passes out, tumbles from his saddle, and lands in the middle of the road. He opens his eyes once, a sky filled with stars, then closes them. We hear horses and the creak of a carriage approaching. The driver brakes, and the horses are brought to a halt just short of trampling D'Artagnan. In the darkness, we can make out the other shapes, rugged men on horseback, bodyguards to the carriage's passenger. Milady de Winter.
What is it, Henri?
There's a body on the road, milady.
Pistols are cocked. Henri's shadow falls across D'Artagnan's body.
He's a young man. Appears to be injured.
We hear the carriage door open, footsteps to D'Artagnan's side.
The handsome boy. Put him inside with me.
Strong hands grasp D'Artagnan and lift him from the cold ground. Cut to D'Artagnan's POV, black screen. Out of the darkness, a face appears, blurry and obscured. It fills the screen, slowly swimming into focus. It is Milady de Winter, even more beautiful in close-up. Familiar, and no doubt deadly ivory combs gleam in her hair. She smiles warmly.
Welcome. What did you dream?
Another angle reveals the interior of a bedchamber at a roadside inn. D'Artagnan, regaining his senses, finds himself propped up in a large bed. He blinks into the face of Milady, who sits at the edge. His eyes widen with recognition, faint awe.
You.
Have we met?
I saw you in Paris.
D'Artagnan notices that his shoulder has been bandaged. He looks around the large room. A fire roars in the grate. Food and drink have been set upon a table. D'Artagnan continues, still groggy and uncertain.
Where am I?
This is Calais.
Calais. The ship. Tuesday at midnight.
D'Artagnan leaps out of bed, then he realizes he is stark naked. Milady smiles. D'Artagnan gathers a bedsheet around him.
Where are my clothes?
Careful. I'm having them cleaned. Is something wrong?
What day is it? What time?
D'Artagnan runs to a window and throws open the shutters beyond the harbor lights of the port of Calais.
It's Tuesday. Yeah, 9.
9. Are you sure?
Somewhere in the night, a bell tolls the hour. Milady smiles.
Quite sure.
D'Artagnan relaxes slightly. Milady rises from the bed. She wears a sky blue dressing gown, something soft and silken beneath it. Ooh! D'Artagnan reacts perceptibly. Enjoying his discomfort, Milady crosses the room. Sorry, Ryan. Joins him at the window.
Are you in a hurry?
How did I get here?
Found you on the road. Discarded. Unwanted kitten. Do you have a name, or shall I make one up for you?
My name is D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan. I like that. I am the Countess de Winter. Milady.
Countess?
My husband's dead.
I'm sorry.
I have learned to live with death.
She manages to combine sympathy, seduction, and just a hint of danger, all in a single reply. D'Artagnan hesitates. He is not immune to her charms. Then,
Countess, I'm very grateful for what you've done, but I can't stay here. I've got
What?
important business.
Oh, how mysterious. A handsome young man with important business in the still of the night. Does it involve a young lady?
No.
Does it require clothes?
Yes, I need my clothes.
They won't be ready for at least an hour.
An hour?
I told the innkeeper to bring them when they are dry. Until then, I'm afraid you are my prisoner. Will the prisoner care for a drink?
Milady crosses to the table, food and drink upon it. As she passes by the fire, her dressing gown seems to disappear. Yes, lady, revealing a silhouette that makes D'Artagnan's heart stop.
Oh God, this line. I am.
Do it!
I am thirsty.
Yeah, you are! Milady pours wine into glasses. Told you, cruel intentions. Turns to face him and offers a smile that dazzles and burns.
Good. Then we will sit by the fire and eat and drink, and you may impress, perhaps even move me, with the story of how you came to lie unconscious in the middle of the night on the road to Calais. I love a good adventure.
Yeah, you do. D'Artagnan hesitates, then steps to her. Cut to.
Exterior roof of Palais Cardinal. Night. The carrier pigeon flutters out of the stark sky and enters its box. The little door on the other side opens and a hand reaches in and removes the bird. Richelieu unpeels the message on its leg. Cut to. Interior Cardinal's private chamber. Night. A room as cold as the man who owns it. Behind Richelieu's desk there is a life-size portrait of the king. Rochefort occupies a window seat, cleaning D'Artagnan's sword. He lifts it to the light and splashes the air. He stands, duels with an imaginary opponent, and Richelieu enters with the message.
Wonderful thing about an imaginary opponent is that he's always greatly skilled and always easily defeated. Pride of victory without the risk of loss.
my life were like that.
Richelieu sits at his desk, peers at the message. He looks up pleased.
He has reached Calais.
I told you not to worry about the Musketeers. They're dead by now.
Buckingham's signature will be on the treaty by morning.
The King's birthday celebration
Will proceed as planned, thanks to the kind intercession of Queen Anne.
Rochefort steps closer, speaks quietly.
And our plans
Will proceed as well.
Richelieu pours 2 glasses of port, offers one to Rochefort. They turn and raise their glasses to the king's portrait. A drink. Cut 2. Interior, Milady's chamber at the end. Night. D'Artagnan and Milady face each other on a rug in front of the roaring fire. The plate of food between them is empty. They drink wine from goblets or cups, and D'Artagnan drains his cup and stares into the burning embers. Milady speaks quietly with seeming compassion. You are sad.
I was thinking about my friends.
Milady knows when to speak and when to listen. She continues to look at D'Artagnan with a gentle expression and allows him to continue. The warm room, the wine, her kindness, all conspire to loosen his tongue. D'Artagnan speaks quietly from the heart.
Oh God, it's like the hangover. The 3 best friends a man could have. We were separated on our way to Calais. I'm afraid I'll never see them again.
What brings you here?
I'd like to tell you, but I can't.
Important business. D'Artagnan nods. He wants to impress her, but he wants her to know how brave he is, and Milady is well aware of it. She looks down and assumes a more noble pose. I understand. Men make bold plans in secret, and women wait to mourn or celebrate the outcome. I know from experience. It's a lonely vigil.
All I can tell you is I'm on a mission for the king.
I've heard that one before.
No, I'm serious.
You're a young man, and young men are given to exaggeration. However, if you would like to entertain me with a story, I'm eager to hear it. And please, make it very brave and filled with handsome knights and beautiful ladies and, I know, a dragon. There's nothing man is more loath to experience than the woman who does not take him seriously. D'Artagnan acts accordingly and reveals.
I came to Calais to stop a spy from sailing to England.
A spy?
Yes.
I believe you. Aren't you afraid?
Musketeers are not afraid of anything.
I knew it. You were a musketeer the moment I saw you.
You did?
Of course. But D'Artagnan, if the spy is to find out you are here, your life could be in grave danger.
Musketeer is not afraid of danger.
I'm dangerous. You're not afraid of me. Her tone heralds a sudden shift. D'Artagnan sees the look in her eyes and can almost feel her lips upon him, but he resists. There is Constance's memory to consider. As midnight approaches...
You're not dangerous.
What am I?
You're beautiful.
The lady covers him with caresses. D'Artagnan resists slightly, but she presses closer. She will not be denied. As Milady leans in close, runs the fingertip along the lines of his jaw, her dressing gown falls open. Oopsie! And along the line of his jaw, enough for D'Artagnan to see. Her breasts as they pressed against the silk beneath it. So Milady speaks as her finger traces. Beauty, danger, they're all the same. And with that, she reaches up to her hair. An ivory comb. Oh, shit. On D'Artagnan! He cannot continue. Constance, the hour, the confusion. Cannot tonight. Oh, shit. It's stuck on my hair.
I'm sorry.
D'Artagnan pulls back just as Milady's arm downs towards his neck, holding a long, sharp butter knife, almost dagger, Attached to the ivory comb, D'Artagnan sees it in the nick of time, parries with his free hand, and knocking the dagger to the right. Ouch, there it goes. The lady leaps after it and hands outstretched. D'Artagnan follows, battles with the dagger, stunned with fear for surprise.
What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?
You came to Calais to stop a spy from sailing to England. D'Artagnan nearly chokes on the knowledge Milady is the messenger he is seeking. He grabs the dagger, rolls to his side. Milady staggers after. The shoulder of her negligee rips open. Oh, now I'm naked. D'Artagnan sees the soft, wet brush, reacts with a shock. Recognition. She bears the brand of the fleur de lis, the infamous mark of murderess, just as Athos told it to him not so long ago.
My God.
Parker! The chamber door flies open and Henri and Parker, the Indo-Chinese bodyguard, appear. Parker faces D'Artagnan with a half smile. He holds out his hands both empty and he steps towards him. D'Artagnan looks towards the dagger in his right hand. The unwilling to fight the man with an unfair advantage, he tosses the dagger to the side, steps forward to meet him. Parker disposes of D'Artagnan with a lightning speed, a series of unexpected kicks, brutally efficient blows the young man is unfamiliar with, and no match for the martial arts here. Parker hoists D'Artagnan to his feet, dazed. Henri picks up the dagger with bad intentions. Milady straightens her dressing gown, adjusts her hair, and commands, "Kill him." Parker holds him fast. Henri steps forward, and D'Artagnan thinks fast.
You can kill me, but a surprise waits for you in England that even Buckingham can't prevent.
What surprise?
That's one thing I'll never tell you.
D'Artagnan, you are young, vain, and foolish. But I do not know if you are clever. D'Artagnan's expression reveals nothing except to suggest the existence of a secret he is bravely keeping. Duly deceived, though he doesn't know it, Milady changes her mind. We'll take him with us. Parker will devise ways to convince you to share your final secret with me. It is a long voyage. Milady's eyes show nothing but cold cruelty. Interior inn, upper hall, landing near dawn. Milady emerges from her room dressed for travel. She is followed by D'Artagnan, now clothed. He is flanked by Henri and Parker. Henri presses the blade of the knife against D'Artagnan's side. You are muted.
The bodyguards are waiting outside.
Milady leads them down the hall, but when she reaches the landing and looks at the tavern below, she draws back with surprise. Angled to include Milady and her POV. The innkeeper, roused from sleep, is wearing a nightshirt and is engaged in urgent conversation with Armand de Winter, the son of the man Milady killed in Paris. The innkeeper shakes his head and Armand grabs him by the collar. D'Artagnan sees Milady's reaction, surprise, impatience, and just a hint of fear. Milady commands, "The back stairs, hurry." They change directions, and as he is pulled away, D'Artagnan catches the glimpse of Armand de Winter below. Cut to exterior in night. Milady's coach emerges from the carriage house, speeds away in the direction of the harbour. In the driver's seat, Henri whips the horses, driving them onward. Milady's 7 bodyguards follow on horseback. Interior carriage, night. D'Artagnan and Parker sit across from Milady. Her face betrays faint doubt, apprehension, emotion she is not used to feeling, let alone displaying to the world around her. D'Artagnan sees this opening and speaks.
The man at the inn. What did he want?
Justice, honor, revenge.
Why?
He is the brother of my late husband, Lord de Winter. He blames me for de Winter's death. He thinks I murdered him.
Did you murder your husband, milady?
Do you think? A beat, D'Artagnan surveys her pale, beautiful face, remembers Athos' tale of love and loss.
I think he's not the first husband you've killed. I once knew a man, one of the Counts of Berry. He told me a story of beauty and danger. He was the bravest man I've ever known, and the saddest.
Yeah. The truth strikes home. The lady cannot see it, but she does not react with anger or scorn. D'Artagnan has to remind her of the one thing in the world that still touches her heart. D'Artagnan looks at her with a steady gaze. Milady cannot hold it. She turns to the carriage window. Exterior carriage night. Milady's carriage turns down a steep lane that leads to the harbour. The fog is so thick that it only masks the schooners only the masts of the schooners can be seen, poking out of the gloom. The lanterns glow gloomily. Carriage comes to a stop. Exterior harbour, Calais, night. The lights of the harbour are muted by low hanging fog. We see the outline of the ship waiting at the pier. Henri helps Milady out of the carriage. D'Artagnan follows. Milady's bodyguards dismount, all 6 of them. A motley bunch of sinister killers. They look around the pier, ready for an encounter. D'Artagnan takes in his surroundings. There's melancholy of air about him. What is the matter, D'Artagnan? Still hoping for your friends to ride to the rescue?
My friends are dead.
Well, if any consolation, you'll soon be joining them. Milady's return to form does not surprise. Parker shoves D'Artagnan towards the fog-enshrouded ship. A name can be made out on her barnacled hull, Persephone. Cut to exterior pier night. Henri calls out to the ship, which is little more than outlined in the fog. Her boarding gangplank leads to the soupy darkness of the deck. Or if you're from New Zealand, the dick.
We are the Countess de Winter's Pot, here arrived from Paris. Permission to come aboard?
There was no reply, closely guarded by Parker. D'Artagnan strains to see. Permission granted! Milady nods to Henri. He steps up to the narrow gangplank, followed by Milady, D'Artagnan, Parker, and the 6 bodyguards. Cut to the deck of the Persephone, night. The deck is filled with swirling fog. Henri peers into the gloom as he climbs aboard, followed by the others. He is addressed by one of the crew, a tall, dark figure.
Take us to your captain.
The tall figure does not reply, nor does he move. Henri demands.
What? Are you deaf?
Henri goes to shake the man, grabs his arm, and the man pitches forward, falling face first onto the deck. Henri jumps back in alarm. Milady and the others react.
What is this?
Milady's bodyguards rush around the deck, confront the other silent silhouettes. They, like the tall figure, are dead. The limp bodies topple at their touch. The bodyguards shout alarm and panic.
Dead! They're all dead!
Well, I certainly hope so. After all that hard work. And that's when Porthos and Aramis come swooping down from above like angels. They swing on ends of ropes, slicing through the air and dropping feet first on top of Milady's bodyguards. D'Artagnan stands open mouthed, and his 3 friends draw their swords.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
2 of them.
Remind me to tell you that story of the horses that could fly above the raging waters, and heroic tale of love, death, and the Musketeers. Suitable for the general public. Porthos wades into the bodyguards at play and shouting as he goes, "All right then, all those who wish to die, raise your hands. Don't be shy, there's plenty to go around." D'Artagnan grabs a sword from the deck and joins into the fray. He finds himself face to face with Parker, the Indo-Chinese bodyguard. Parker has 2 oriental swords spinning in his hand. One knocks D'Artagnan's sword out of his hand. D'Artagnan does a backflip but falls on the slippery deck as Parker is about to chop D'Artagnan's head off. His face grimaces as he is lifted onto a sword out of frame. In the mist, Athos is revealed.
Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything?
D'Artagnan almost cries with happiness. He leaps into his feet and embraces Athos.
I thought you were dead.
Keep your mind on the mission, D'Artagnan.
He winks at D'Artagnan, returns to the fray. D'Artagnan follows. The Musketeers confront Milady's evil bodyguards in the night of the fog. Athos with brutal perfection, Porthos with the strange weapons and a healthy sense of the absurd, and Aramis with a familiar grace and artistry, a mock determination to disable, not kill his opponents. Milady views the latter with alarm as the battle rages on around her. She retreats into the shadows. Athos and D'Artagnan find themselves fighting side by side. Athos observes D'Artagnan's technique, the usual frenetic windmill of feint and thrust with a frown.
Boy, it's a miracle you're still alive fighting like that.
What do you mean?
First, always find your enemy's weakness. Second, take advantage of it. Watch me.
One of the bodyguards who wears a wooden leg attacks Athos. Athos kicks the false leg from under him, knocks him to the deck. D'Artagnan repeats, even as he disables his own foe.
Find the weakness, take advantage. Got it.
Aramis kneels at a dying man, delivers much of last rites. A bodyguard races into view, means to kill him where he kneels. Aramis does not miss a beat. He shifts, rises, delivers a punch and a kick, knocking the man off the ship and below into the water. A splash is heard, and Aramis resumes a priestly pose, continues the litany. Cut to exterior pier night. I hear you swallowing. That's weird. Two sailors, crew members of the Persephone, return to the ship after the night's drink. They see and hear mayhem ahead. I know somebody's marked sailor, and I believe that person is Jen. That's a ship! The two sailors pull out daggers and bound up to the gangplank. Cut to exterior deck of the Persephone night. The two sailors find themselves in the middle of a wild battle. They look around for someone to assault to see a large musketeer with his back turned. They charge. Porthos hears them coming and spins. The two sailors stop in their tracks, eyes popping with horrified recognition.
It was not me, I swear, but it's Porthos the pirate!
Ha! With a collective yah! The two sailors drop their daggers to flee. I think I forgot to highlight that for you. My apologies. Porthos looks about to see anyone. Notice their accent, and D'Artagnan grins no eye. I told you I was famous.
Porthos the pirate?
Privateer, there's a difference. Every musketeer is running from something or someone. D'Artagnan deadpans.
I love a good sea story. Do tell me sometime.
Porthos reacts to D'Artagnan's jest. Excuse me. But before he can reply, the youth has bolted back into the fray. High angle on the battle raging aboard the Persephone. Sabers flash, pistols explode. Back to the scene. Athos drives several bodyguards back with his sword. Notices D'Artagnan working his way towards him.
Hey, did you find the Cardinal's spy?
Yes.
Did you kill him?
Athos, the spy is a woman.
What?
Hold on. My script got way too big for my screen. Athos turns to D'Artagnan, wonders, and at that moment he sees a figure at the gangplank, swathed in fog and diffused in light. The lady. Time stops as they regard each other across the deck. The battle between.
No.
Yes. It's me, milady. Milady turns and runs into the night. Athos races after her. Cut to exterior pier night. With the speed and grace of the panther, Milady runs down the gangplank, climbs into the saddle of one of her bodyguard's horses and gallops off. Athos appears moments later, leaps from the saddle of another horse and gives chase. Cut to exterior harbor, road, night. Milady whips her horse, drives it onward, but Athos overtakes and leaps from the saddle, takes her into his arms. They fall to the ground and crash. Milady grabs the deadly comb from her hair, which she already used, so plot hole. Grips the dagger's handle. Athos, stunned from breaking their fall, rolls into his side. Milady appears at his face vulnerable in the half light and lowers the dagger. She will not kill him. Milady scrambles to her feet, runs towards the dark forest, but Athos stands and shouts.
Stop!
Milady takes a halting stop and then turns to face, and Athos holds his musket in a steady hand. A very long beat. Milady steps closer. Finally, she whispers with love.
How did you do it, Sabine? How did you come back from the dead? I did not.
You are too proud to listen to the truth. I learned the value of life soon. Athos grips the pistol tighter as if to ward off the past and what it brings.
Give me the Cardinal's treaty.
Yeah.
Then I will shoot.
Athos cooks the trigger, and Lady whispers, "Fine." Athos's face is a mask of contradiction. He tries to pull the trigger, but it is not in him. Lady recognizes his pain with a nod, and she feels it too. Then briefly, before she leaves him, the lady speaks softly. The past, the love, where it led them. I remember. She turns and runs away, directly into the arms of Armand de Winter. He has ridden and he has followed, and he has finally found her here.
Countess de Winter.
As D'Artagnan, Porthos, and Aramis arrive on the scene, cut to interior in Calais, public room night. The public room is empty, save for D'Artagnan and the three Musketeers. They gather at the table that holds the treaty. Oh, God. They gather around the table. Aramis holds the treaty in his gloved hand. The mood is somber and tense.
The treaty outlines Richelieu's plan to forge an alliance with Buckingham.
Just a moment, I forgot this is still me. One moment. Porthos is here. Not highlighted because it wasn't supposed to be me, but it's still me. What about the king?
He's not mentioned directly, but the agreement is contingent on a demonstration of the Cardinal's power.
Demonstration? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Athos's face grows dark. He's been silent throughout. Now he rises to his feet.
I know someone who does.
D'Artagnan, Aramis, and Porthos watch in grim silence as Athos crosses the room to an imposing door. Interior private room. Night. A fire burns in the grate. Excuse me. Milady sits beside it in a chair, staring into the glowing embers. They're hot. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're hot. Reflection dances in the pale blue eyes. There was a knock at the door. Armand de Winter emerges from a dark corner of the room where he is been standing guard with an impassive executioner. He crosses the door, opens it, and Athos steps inside.
Like a word with your prisoner.
She dies at dawn.
Athos nods and steps to Milady, stands before him. The lady stares at the fire, speaks softly, her eyes on the flames. She comes to offer me consolation.
No.
The lady turns to rub him. There was a time when I would have given my life for a kind.
I could not give it, Sabine. I was a fool.
Excuse me. Milady hears the regret in his voice. He holds his gaze and Athos indicates Armand in the corner.
Did you kill his brother and his father, as he says?
They come. The nightmare you want something to be.
But not before. Not us.
Never will keep me company. Athos kneels at his side, near to pleading.
Do you know the Cardinal's plans?
No.
Tell me. I can't.
His life demands swift justice. Take the secret to my grave.
Sabine, you will die for your crimes. Nothing can stop that. But how you leave this world is up to you.
What does the world have to do for me? Hold on, Athos. Milady's hand in his. All that he is feeling. Cut to exterior seaside cliffs night. 100 feet below, waves crash on a rocky shore. On the jagged cliff above, a black mass of trees is outlined against a stormy sky filled with copper-colored clouds, surreal in effect. A sinister procession approaches the cliff. Porthos leads Milady. She wears a simple white shift, her hair pulled back into a long braid. She looks years younger, the girl she used to be. The executioner walks behind them, followed by Armand de Winter, Aramis, and D'Artagnan, and Athos. He watches every step. The procession stops at the cliff's edge. Thunder rumbles, lightning slashes the sky. The executioner ties Milady's hands behind her. The executioner removes a bright scimitar from beneath his cloak. Milady catches Athos's eye. He holds her gaze. Oh, this is my gaze. My gaze. He stares at Milady unflinchingly, as if to burn her image into his eyes so that he might keep it there until he dies. Aramis reaches inside his cloak, removes the sacred priestly cloth he carries. The executioner delivers the formal litany.
I forgive you for your crimes. Die in peace.
Athos repeats, whispers. Athos, what was that?
Die in peace.
Aramis comes forward and groans.
I am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die.
The executioner's sharp blade shines in the light of the dawn.
On your knees.
Lady kneels. The executioner steps closer. The tableau silhouetted against the reddish glow of the horizon. The executioner brushes Milady's braid from her neck, expressing the soft white of his skin. He raises the scimitar overhead. Just as he is about to bring it down, a cry is heard from torn from the heart.
No!
Athos grabs the executioner's wrist and twists the scimitar loose. It falls to the ground.
What is this?
Porthos leaps forward and locks his great arms around Athos. Athos! When Athos breaks free and Milady raises to her feet, Athos rushes to her.
Forgive me, Sabine. Please, forgive.
Words he could never say, and finally spoken. Milady locks eyes with him. Athos is desperate, pure feeling it signifies has given her the kind of release and the strength to face her fate. God. Usually the cardinal intends to assassinate the kings, but the celebration was frightened. And with that, Milady reaches forward, bottles a gentle kiss, and then Athos and the others are gone, stunned, uncertain as she takes back her step and finds the cliff's edge, and steps over it. The executioner rushes to look after. The others follow, except for Athos, who remains rooted in place, eyes on the distant horizon, a long silence. Thunder rumples.
God's justice be done.
D'Artagnan sadly lowers his head. Porthos puts a consoling hand on his shoulder. Aramis stands with his side and mutters.
Amen.
Musketeers.
D'Artagnan, Porthos, Aramis, turn. Athos has regained his former self, stoic in command, hiding a broken heart.
The king's life is in danger. We have work to do.
Exterior roof of Palais du Cardinal, Paris, night. Start to close on the now familiar portrait of King Louis VIII, usually found hanging behind Richelieu's desk. A chant rings out. A blast tears through the painting, leaving smoking hole where the king's heart should be. Another angle reveals Richelieu and Rochefort as they walk through the roof of the painting. Appraise the damage. The cardinal pokes a finger into the hole.
Impressive.
He can do it every time.
Rochefort signals a pivot to the salary marksman positioned far away on the roof of the parapets. The marksman rises from the shoulders, shooters crouch, bows Catley, and begins to reload his musket.
And he has no qualms about...
None. He believes that the man should honor no king before God.
Man of faith. That's delightful. But if you're paying him, double it. I want the king's birthday to be a memorable event. And rehang this painting in my chamber. Just as it is.
Hold on Richelieu for a beat, framed by a sky filled with stars, his evil intent cut to dawn. Dawn breaks, music up, and exterior village square day. D'Artagnan and the three musketeers thunder through on horseback. Pedestrians scurry to get out of their way. As they ride past, Porthos raises a crossbow and fires it, and excuse me, and the arrow slashes through the air with a terrible hum and embeds itself on the public wall. Attached to the arrow is a piece of parchment, like the one in D'Artagnan's father's study. It reads, "All for one, and one for all." Da-da-da-da. There should be fanfare there. Exterior, another village day. A captain in the Cardinal's Guard makes a public announcement from horseback. Outside a cathedral, townspeople are gathered around. Boo! Boo! Bow to the Queen of Filth! The aforementioned musketeers are declared outrose and sentence to death. Any person shuttling and aiding them will be hanged. Fuck you, boo. Hoofbeats interrupt. The captain turns to the irritation and with Porthos and Aramis right to either side, snatch up the man by arms, drag him briefly through the air, and deposit him with a thud against a hitching post, and the captain, stunned, looks down at the piece of parchment now attached to his chest. All for one, and one for all. Cut to exterior Verissine's day, as the word has passed to the musketeers in the homes and passions and bosses and gaming houses, and etc., 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 galvanizing them into action. Get those musketeers back in action. All for one and one for all. Cut to exterior Paris day, city, as seen from the hills. A glorious sunny day. Cut to exterior the Louvre day. This is when it's a little palace, not a museum. The citizens of Paris move through the streets. They all share a common destination, the palace. The festive mood is in the air, and why not? The king's birthday. Cut to interior Louvre, the great hall of the throne room day. Thinking back, this movie does not show the Louvre, it shows something else completely. Anyway, a gathering of the nobles and ladies, all in the full ceremonial dress. Rochefort is there as well, the familiar eye of the patch. With the familiar eye patch in command of the Cardinal's guards. It's getting late. I apologize, I can't talk. The Seneschal waits at the door with the two flanking lines of the trumpeters. The trumpeters raise their instruments to blow a royal blast. Entrance doors. Louis, Queen Anne, which I should turn on that filter. Nope, that button there. Multitasking. Proceed slowly across the room toward the balcony that overlooks the waiting crowds outside. Noblemen bow and their ladies curtsy as the king and queen pass. Constance, dressed for the occasion, looks from the sideline, smiles. The king and queen proceed, two teenagers with the world at their feet.
They look happy.
Hungry, more likely.
Still, you were right about the celebration, and when the cardinal told me how much it meant to you.
I said nothing.
But
I cannot express in confidence how much the celebration would mean to you. Both pause to consider the manipulation. Oh, the terror. Interior anteroom day. Richelieu stands in the anteroom just off the procession. Oh, my eyes watering from crying before. As he watches the king and queen as they walk, speak quietly to himself.
Not sure which is sadder, to die so young or to die a king.
Richelieu turns from the procession, speaks to Rochefort, who pauses in the shadowy alcove behind him.
France will not go wanting. A new king will sit on the throne, the true king after all.
He says it in a quiet fervor. The dream as long as it lasts within reach. Then, as if to reassure.
Is everything ready?
Yes,
Are you
Your
sure?
Eminence. I stake my life on it, Your Eminence.
Rest assured, Captain. You have.
Cut to exterior grounds opposite, or I'm sorry, outside Louvre Day. The balcony has been colorfully decorated. The crowd focuses attention on the empty space where the king will soon appear. Below the entrance to the palace is protected by a double line of the cardinal's guards, resplendent in the crimson tunics. It would take an army to get past them. Cut to exterior near the Louvre Day. The streets landing to the palace are clogged with people, all pushing and straining to get closer. D'Artagnan and the three musketeers must arrive on horseback and are forced to dismount. They push through the crowd, trying to reach the palace, afraid they will be too late. Athos barks orders as they struggle forward.
Look through the surrounding area. We'll try to reach the king.
But
Go.
Athos and the others press on. D'Artagnan, a little disappointed to be left behind, pauses and checks the buildings to loom overhead. Then he reacts with shock and surprise. D'Artagnan's POV, the bell tower of the Comte des Champs monastery figure moving about, dimly viewed, but this time is much clearer. The man is not a monk, he is carrying a musket in his hands. Back to the scene. D'Artagnan turns to alert the musketeers. Too late, they have already vanished into the throng. D'Artagnan takes off running towards the monastery. The bell tower, high above the surrounding scene, the marksman assumes a crouching position, raises his musket and trains it on the empty balcony, where the king is soon to appear. Cut to the interior Louvre, Great Hall, Throne Room Day. Louis and Anne continue toward the balcony. Richelieu trails the royal couple. He nods to Rochefort in passing. They exchange significant smiles. Anne spots the smoke on Rochefort's face. He resumes a supplicant pose. Anne glances back. Richelieu behind them. I do not trust them.
I'm not sure who to trust.
We will discover the truth together. Louis likes the sound of that. And they step aside towards the balcony. Cut to the interior steeple day. The bell ropes hundreds of feet long dangle down a Vintignous shaft, and D'Artagnan races up the narrow, circular stairs. Above him is the open trap of the bell tower. He catches a glimpse of the marksman, back turned, aiming at him. Got you, interior crowd below. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis push their way through the crowd, trying desperately to reach the Palais entrance, but the throng is impenetrable. Athos turns, wanders, and shoots a worried look at the bell tower. The Comte des Champs illuminating against the sky as if to intuit the danger lurking there. Oh, more shall be mailed. Cut to exterior Louvre Day, balcony de Louis and Anne lead the procession to the doors of the balcony. Excuse me, the crowd roars and the trumpets blare. The king steps into the sunlight, the queen follows, then Richelieu, that dick. Three most important people of France stand together, acknowledge the clamoring multitudes. Fuck the cardinal. Exterior bell tower day. The marksman takes careful aim. Cheering down below is like a faint whisper to this altitude. Marksman cocks, he said cocks, the hammer of his flintlock. Yes, I've had some beverages drink tonight. Cut to into steeple today. D'Artagnan hears the click of the musket's hammer. He knows he must ask now. He looks around and sees his chance. D'Artagnan leaps off the stairs and grabs a handful of rope, using his weights to ring the bell overhead. Cut to exterior bell tower day. The big bell makes a resounding ear-splitting clink as the marksman's shot goes wild. Cut to exterior Louvre Day balcony. The shot misses the king and explodes him to the wall. An inch from his head, Louis turns to Richelieu, sees anger and disappointment in a flash in the cardinal's face just for an instant, but it's enough to know he betrayed him. What a dick. Cut to interior exterior Louvre day. Pandemonium inside and outside the palace. Porthos, and Aramis emerge from the crowd at the entrance, draw their swords, and prepare to rush the long line of guards protesting the doors. I don't even know. That's right, Pilda. Sure, great. The guards cannot believe what they are seeing. The 3 men against 100. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But then the looks on the guards' faces begin to change, subtly at first, from amusement to horror. Their POV. Behind Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, something indescribable happens. Musketeers appear from every direction, some from the surrounding crowd, some from buildings, rooftops. Others appear on horseback, a few disguised as monks, all defiantly wearing their blue and gold tunics. The murmur, wait a second, the tunics are blue and silver, not blue and gold. Anyway, the murmur of the crowd becomes an excited roar. The core of musketeers line up behind Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Porthos, and Aramis exchange a smile. Athos keeps his usually dour expression, but his eyes change with excitement. They raise their arms and face the long line of guards. 100 sabres flash in the sunlight.
Save the king!
There you go, unmuted. The musketeers charge is a glamorous sight. Cut to exterior bell tower day. D'Artagnan scrambles up through the trapdoor and tackles the marksman. As the bell continues playing, they fight hand to hand. The marksman forces D'Artagnan towards the edge of the tower, 200 feet into the ground below. They remain deadlocked for a beat. The marksman inching towards D'Artagnan backwards, certain death behind him, and at the last moment, D'Artagnan summons up the strength of 3 men and shoves the marksman backward with resounding kick. The marksman falls through the open trapdoor and plunges to his death. I'm having trouble with words. D'Artagnan peers down the shaft. There's a faint crash as the marksman hits the bottom. Utilizing the bell ropes like a fireman's pole, D'Artagnan grabs hold and slides down into the abyss, into a great hole in the room. Day pandemonium reigns. Rochefort instructs his guards to close the huge door to the great hole. The members of the king's royal court run in panicked circles, convinced the palace is under siege because, well, frankly, it is. Constant pauses amid the riot and sees the queen, but Richelieu has found her first. He steps down and assumes an air of priestly innocence.
Your Majesty.
But Louis steps into view, puts a protecting arm around his wife, and speaks a stern command.
Leave us alone.
That's when a loud boom rocks the room. Another angle, a great door shudders towards the impact of the terrific blow. Another boom, and the great hole is plunged into further chaos. The regiment of guards rush forward, press their bodies against the door to secure it. Boom! The great door threatens to split in half. Richelieu huddles with Rochefort amid the rising panic. His eyes narrow to mean slits. He gestures toward Louis and Anne across the room.
Kill him. Kill her too.
Rochefort draws D'Artagnan's sword from its sheath. He advances on Louis and Anne. Louis, as witness in the latter treason confirmed, he raises his own sword, prepared to protect the queen, to die for her if necessary.
Get behind me.
Rochefort takes confidence towards the king. But one last boom, and the great door comes crashing down on the guards, revealing the tide of musketeers on the other side. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis at the lead. Continued. Louis breaks into the wide grin. The musketeers wade into the guards. The great hall is transformed into a battlefield. Rochefort sees Athos charging at him.
Greetings, Monsieur Cyclops. Are we interrupting?
Not for long.
Athos and Rochefort lock swords and duel. Battle. Musketeers surround Louis and Anne and ward off the attack, but the young king has no intention of being protected. He wades into the fall, fights side by side with his musketeers, and Anne watches him with a host of emotions, respect, admiration. Love? Louis pauses to return her gaze. It's only love, and then returns to the battle. Constance dashes through the fray. She sees the guards slip behind the curtain approach the queen. She grabs the heavy goblet and shouts.
Look out!
and looks up. Constance tosses the goblet to her and catches it neatly, brings it down with the goblet on the head of the hapless guard. Constance smiles and leaps forward. Aramis casts down the guard as another man comes at him from behind. Porthos intervenes, runs the man through, and two musketeers follows the exchange of deadpan thanks and continue. Athos and Rochefort slash at each other. It is a mighty confrontation, but Athos soon gains the upper hand. Rochefort shouts into a nearby guard for help, but now it's 2-on-1. Athos receives a wound in the shoulder and staggers, and the treaty falls from his tunic to the floor. Rochefort, yeah, I know, it's a lot. Sorry, dog. Rochefort reacts to the start. He grabs the treaty, stuffs into his doublet. Athos shakes off a sudden pain, disposes of the guard. Rochefort and Athos face each other for a second time. Athos wounded, Rochefort confined in what he can finish in the injured musketeer. Stop snoring, dog. But Athos clearly manages sword hand. Rochefort reacts. Their sabers clash as they draw together. Rochefort grabs a dagger from his belt and with his hand free, but Athos sees it comes in and smashes the Rochefort across the face of his fist. Oh my god, this is a lot of dialogue. Rochefort goes sprawling as his sword slides across the floor until someone's foot steps in. Rochefort looks up and sees D'Artagnan standing on the blade.
This sword belongs to me.
Dun, 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 dun. D'Artagnan stoops to pick up his long-lost sword, and the snoring gets louder. He tosses the saber to Rochefort, who catches it neatly. Athos watches from a short distance. Knows this moment belongs to D'Artagnan. He will not intervene, but he shouts.
D'Artagnan, kill him where he stands.
There are D'Artagnan's words. A son vowing to avenge the death of his father. D'Artagnan wonders. Rochefort prepares.
By all means, let's discover if you are as brave a man as your father was. And as foolish.
What?
He died for his king and for France, but most of all, he died at the end of my sword. As will you.
That was chilling and amazing. Well done. Rochefort smiles at taunt. D'Artagnan raises his sword. Whispers sadly.
This is for you, father.
Then, eyes blazing, D'Artagnan attacks the six-fingered man. No, I don't even remember. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Rochefort, with everything he's got, driving him into the adjoining chamber. Angle to inclined chamber. Fire roars to the great stone bath as his light projects the giant shadows on the wall of D'Artagnan and Rochefort duel are slashing with each other. A great hall, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis take the fight to the Cardinal's guards, each with his by now familiar trademarks. King Louis fights beside them. D'Artagnan and Rochefort, they battle before the blazing fire. Sweat covers their faces. Rochefort wears a wolfish grin, but D'Artagnan has learned his lessons well. He attacks with gusto, and Rochefort's grin soon turns towards desperation. He cannot match the boy's vengeful steel, so he drives his knee into D'Artagnan's groin. D'Artagnan falls to the floor. Oh, my balls! My balls! Me robot balls! Rochefort needs to finish him there, but D'Artagnan... Sorry, Euro Trip will always be in my head. Rochefort needs to finish him there, but D'Artagnan rolls away from the blade and leaps back to his feet and he heals himself at his hated opponent. Rochefort sidesteps, throws D'Artagnan against the wall. He pins him there, stunning the youth in hisses with superior disdain.
One thing's for certain. You're no musketeer.
But D'Artagnan remembers Athos's advice. Always find your enemy's weakness, and he shoves his thumb into Rochefort's good eye. Oh! Rochefort stumbles backwards, and D'Artagnan punches his sword into Monsieur Cyclops' heart.
Take it back?
I might have been mistaken.
Rochefort crumples to the floor dead. D'Artagnan looks at Rochefort's blood on his sword. His father's death finally avenged or avenged. I don't know. This is medieval. Avenged seems appropriate. That's when he hears the rustle of a silken robe. Oh God. D'Artagnan pivots and sees Richelieu kneeling at Rochefort's body, extracting the treaty from his doublet.
No.
Richelieu smiles, hurls the treaty towards the blazing fireplace. The flames begin to lick at the parchment paper. D'Artagnan flies past the cardinal and dives after to retrieve it. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis enter the room. D'Artagnan stumbles up the fireplace, covered with soot. Crushing the treaty, he grins. On D'Artagnan's look of triumph, cut to the Great Hall. A short time later, the battles over the Musketeers have won on the dais. Louis and Anne confront Richelieu, who is a prisoner now, guarded by several Musketeers. Louis holds the recovered treaty in his hand. D'Artagnan and the three Musketeers stand by.
Majesty, that document is an obvious forgery. I am clearly the victim of a conspiracy designed and perpetrated by these three Musketeers.
Richelieu assumes the trustworthy pose, one familiar to both king and queen.
My queen, I did not know that you'd forgotten to shave this morning.
I'm so
This is a-
close.
Just kidding, I'm sorry. This is a complicated matter, Your Eminence, affecting both my mind and France and the crown.
A bit. All is one of Richelieu's will manage to elude blame after all, but Louis continues with quiet authority. Just a trace of humor as a king and as a man.
And so, until such time as I and my advisors, my wife, Porthos, and the other Musketeers can determine the whole truth of the matter, I invite you to await our decision in the comfort of the Bastille.
The Musketeers close in around the cardinal. He fumes and protests.
Please to me, I'm the Cardinal of France.
And I am its king. Thank you. And as king, I hereby reinstate the Musketeers.
A tremendous huzzah! Aside from the hall! Richelieu is led from the room and he pauses in front of D'Artagnan.
Congratulations, Monsieur d'Artagnan. I'll be keeping an eye on you.
Thank you, Your Eminence. I'll be watching you too.
Richelieu smiles as crocodile smile. Followed by the guards, he turns and strides away, and hands clasped behind his black scarlet robes billowing behind him. Louis turns to the Musketeers. He indicates D'Artagnan.
Is this the young man who saved my life?
Porthos puts a hand on D'Artagnan's shoulder. Oh, fuck me. His name is D'Artagnan, sire.
Approach, D'Artagnan.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Oh, fuck.
Come on!
Sorry, I lost my mouth. D'Artagnan's heart pounds as he draws close to the king and queen as he remembers, reaches his doublet, and turns to the queen.
I have something that belongs to Your Majesty.
D'Artagnan produces the bracelet he found on the country road, which doesn't actually happen in the movie. He holds it out to her, and the king wonders, and the queen smiles. This is weird. Thank you, D'Artagnan, but the bracelet does not belong to me. It belongs to her. It indicates Constance, who steps forward into view. Galactic here. D'Artagnan and Constance lock eyes for the third time in their life, apparently. True love happens 3 times in a row at first sight.
Nice.
D'Artagnan slips the bracelet around her waist. Constance kisses them on the cheek. Louis continues.
Hold, please. I'm back. D'Artagnan, I am in your debt. What can I do to repay the courage you've shown me? Anything, D'Artagnan. Whatever your heart desires.
D'Artagnan knows what he wants, but he is tongue-tied, unable to ask for it. Athos asks for him.
Majesty, his heart has only one desire: to become a musketeer.
Oh, he doesn't want to become a Musketeer. He wants to become a Musketeer. Fuck the Musketeers. Fuck Disney.
He just wants to belong to
And
something.
their greedy fucking bullshit.
Okay, that's true though.
Yes, D'Artagnan looks at Athos. Thankful for the intercession for not becoming a fucking Musketeer. And Louis answers with pleasure.
I wish I still had a Mickey glove so I could just do that. Anyway, then kneel, D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan drops to his knees, honored to become a musketeer. Louis lays the blade of his sword on each of his shoulders.
The world is an uncertain realm, filled with danger and Musketeers. Truth despoiled by broken promises. Honor undermined by the pursuit of gold. Freedom sacrificed when the weak are oppressed by the strong, but there are those who oppose these powerful forces, those who dedicate their lives to truth, honor, and freedom. They are a constant reminder to all of us that such a life is not just possible, but necessary to our continued survival as a country, as a king. These men are known as the Musketeers.
As Louis speaks, D'Artagnan closes his eyes. Countless images rush through his mind. Definitely not images of Musketeers, because fuck that shit. His home is in Gascony, Constance and Queen Anne on the country road. His first encounters with Queen Anne on the country road. His first encounters with Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Their adventures together, the face of Milady. It's been a busy week, and it's definitely not imagining the incredibly expensive adventures of Disneyland these days, which costs $11 billion a day. Anyway, Louis, please continue.
Rise, D'Artagnan, and join them, Musketeer!
D'Artagnan stands transformed from boy to man. Bells ring in the distance. Constance smiles brightly. Tears gleam in her eyes. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis surround the bright blue tunic of the Musketeers. They slip the tunic over D'Artagnan's head and react with cheer. D'Artagnan hugs each one of the three, for each has given him gifts more valuable than gold, much like in The Wizard of Oz, apparently. Porthos, Aramis, and last Athos, who, to the surprise of all, know him, smiles. My eyes deceive me.
I find it hard to believe myself.
His lips unused as they are such contortion, twisted and stretched into a smile.
It was spectacular. And what
D'Artagnan
teeth!
basks in their company and wonders aloud.
I know this is a stupid question, but what exactly does a musketeer do?
Athos and Aramis and Porthos exchange a glance. They're not exactly sure themselves. But truth, yeah, honor,
And freedom.
yeah, wasn't you listening? Three Musketeers. No, make that the 4 Musketeers. Raise their swords and clash blades together, clanging them to give us sparks.
All for one?
And
one
one for all. And music swords cutting full straight out to the end. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I would like to thank everybody for a wonderful read. Ooh, me twirl my little mustache. Everyone did a wonderful job. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful night.